0455 or find us online at BW Boat Club or just Google BW Boat Club. Baywater Exclusive Boat Club, the exclusive club of Southwest Florida.
Tonight on Wink News at 6.
What do you got for a poll question, David? Anything?
Prescriptions. You know
Do you bet when you play golf?
We don't know about many new ways to save on prescriptions. Patients all over Southwest Florida are discovering how to save big on prescriptions.
I can get pretty much any generic medication for my patients at just a fraction of the cost that they would spend at a pharmacy.
And even get many for free.
Who won, Dobler or Gossage?
Investigation. Cut your prescription bills. Tonight on Wink News at 6.
This message is sponsored by the Florida A&M University Medical Marijuana Education and Research Initiative, the Florida Association of Broadcasters, and this radio station.
Where I'm from, marijuana is legal. Can I use it in Florida? Nah, it's illegal here, man. But I have PTSD. Should I at least try to get medical marijuana?
That's legal. But if I were you, I'd talk to my doctor about qualifying conditions and to find out if medical marijuana is even right for you.
Thanks. I'll talk to my doctor.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Dan Martineau here, owner of D.R. Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. I've been repairing and replacing roofs for 27 years. We operate with integrity, knowledge, and service. Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-1441.
License number CCC 1326954.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Listen to the Dan Patrick Show at work.
Never boring, that's for sure.
Streaming 24/7 at foxsportsfm.com.
We are Fox Sports.
Here we go. Now back to Miller and Moulton.
No.
This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
.26 past 6 o'clock on this Friday, the 12th of June. Thanks for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at foxsportsfm.com and broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. You can chime into the show on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line, 479-5551, 479-5551.
Did a little engineering during the break, David. Everything apparently is up and running perfectly now.
Okay.
You know what I did? Turned the software off, turned it back on again.
Hey, good job by you.
I'd like to thank Richard Gallo, my engineer at the last place.
Yes.
And John Sharp, my engineer at the current place, for all of the help they've provided me over the years in getting me to be able to accomplish that tremendous engineering feat.
Yep. And all those years of doing live play-by-play on the road where, for whatever reason, the hookup wasn't quite right. And basically the best wisdom that could be formulated between you and the producer back in the studio was, disconnect and try to connect again. Oh, okay.
Okay. Hey, when we go to break, I'm going to hang up and call you back again, okay? Good,
right.
Okay.
Yep. We'll see if it's any better now.
Right.
Okay.
Where's my long distance card that I've got to put in the numbers for?
Exactly. Hold on. I got to type in my code. Time now for
the starting five. 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton starting five. Fox Sports Radio and foxsportsfm.com.
All right. A few things to sink your teeth into here. First, golf. It was back yesterday, and it was glorious. It really was. Justin Rose early, Harold Varner the third late. Both fired 7 under 63s to be tied for the lead in the first round of the Colonial. There were a handful of golfers at 6 under par, including JT, Justin Thomas. There were about 3 handfuls of golfers at 5 under par, including one Jordan Spieth, who got the old flat stick working on the back 9 yesterday. But how about 61-year-old Tom Lehman?
How about Tom Lehman?
Thank you very much. Tom Lehman won this tournament 20-plus years ago. And so as a defending champion, he's got a spot in the field if he wants it. And remember, it's not like the Champions Tour golfers have been playing either. So he's been chomping at the bit to play. Longer's in this field. There's a couple of others in the 50-plus crowd that are in the event. But Tom Lehman fired a 6 birdie, 1 bogey, 5 under 65 at the age of 61. Tom Lehman, 2 shots off the lead. Nice showing for the Champions Tour.
You get those old guys out there without a lot of wind, they can still play, David.
Well, and as Lehman said, I've got to put it in the fairway because I'm 30-plus yards behind these guys. But, I'm pretty straight, and I love this course. And he says, I live in Arizona. We've been playing golf every day for the last 3 months. I've been working on my game. I'm ready to go. He said, did I expect to shoot 65? No, but do I know I'm capable of shooting 65? Absolutely. How about that little round yesterday also? His son on his bag.
It's the best. It's the absolute best.
So let's see what Tom Lehman does today. Hopefully,
I'm probably one of my least favorite all-time really good players. Just for whatever reason, I've never been a Tom Lehman guy. I'll root my tail off for him for the next 3 days. That's a cool story.
Lehman in the mid-90s there, boy, seemed like he was contending in all the majors. Seemed like he had 3 really good cracks at a U.S. Open and had a really good crack at a Masters, ended up winning the 96 British Open for his lone major. Alex Cora, remember him? Manager of the Red Sox in 2018 when they won the World Series. Suspended from baseball for the entire 2020 season because of his role in the Astros sign stealing scandal. This is what Alex Cora had to say yesterday. And I quote, "It was not a two-man show. We all did it."
There's your 6 seconds. Don't know how else to slice it. He didn't name names, wasn't going to name names, but basically said that there's 2 of us that took the heat for all of this, and that's impossible.
Right. And I believe he's talking about him and A.J. Hinch. Okay. Or do you think he's talking about Beltran?
I think he's talking about Beltran.
Well, because Beltran didn't get suspended. The Mets fired him, and he's out of baseball. But Cora obviously suspended. Hinch suspended. And the general manager suspended. And obviously everybody got fired from the current jobs they had.
I think he's really talking about Beltran in himself because they were considered the masterminds. Hinch was never considered the mastermind of this. He was guilt by association. You're the manager. We have to suspend you. But he was not the one taking the brunt of this.
Right. And there were stories, actually, that a couple of times Hinch stumbled in upon what was going on and he trashed a television and,
I don't want this to happen, but you guys, I'm the manager and you guys just aren't listening.
Supposedly one time he basically threw a tantrum and said, knock this crap off.
And in fact, I think Cora was throwing Hinch under the bus more than protecting him yesterday. If you want to know how I view that.
So, first interview that Alex Cora gave. And do you think, by the way, that Cora and Hinch next year in 2021, do you think either one is hired for just a coach's job even? I mean, I don't expect anybody to make them a manager right away. But do you think that they're welcomed back into baseball in 2021 in some way?
Yes. Yes, I do. I don't think that the players and teams view this as badly as the public does. I think they're ticked. But I don't think, when the Yankees ended up doing it, when Boston ended up doing it, sounds more like more teams were ticked that they didn't think of it first.
I think more teams were ticked because they felt that the way these teams were cheating was so damn blatant. All right. And that they were angry and that they thought it was going on at the time, and they complained to Major League Baseball, who basically pulled a Colonel Klink and said, I see nothing.
Well, then their fraternity, if you will, is far greater than I ever gave it credit for. Because at some point, they hinted to a few media members, but if they were all that ticked off, someone goes on the record and tells people what's what.
Look at all the heat Mike Fiers got for going on the record when he finally went on the record. I mean, there's not a lot of bravery out there, Mark, right now.
He got a lot of it, though, because he did it after he left them. And his reasons behind it were hollow. What I'm saying is if during the middle of it, someone on another team said, look, these guys are cheaters. Flat out. Everybody knows it. That's all.
Kirk Ferentz and some of his Iowa players are going to hold a press conference this afternoon. Kirk apparently has something he wants to say, and he's going to say it. My guess is it'll be something like, I've been doing a lot of listening. Here's what I've learned. Need to open things up just a little bit. A little too restrictive. I wasn't aware that black players at Iowa felt the way they felt, that they were uncomfortable. If I was aware, I would have done something about it sooner. That's what I think you're going to hear. Now, is it going to fly with the faithful? Probably.
Anything Kurt says is going to fly with the faithful. They'll be a little bummed out when Doyle gets released or let go or decides to resign, however they're going to work that out. Because they're angry about that now. But in Kirk, they trust.
And as well they should. They've had a nice little run here. Between Hayden Fry and Kirk Ferentz. I mean, they've had like two coaches for the last 40 years, haven't they? John Harbaugh, not very happy with the National Football League. And
No, he's not.
In our 8 o'clock hour. John Harbaugh pointed out the obvious, which is these NFL coronavirus social distancing rules, they're impossible to follow. Here's the part that if you're the NFL, and I'm not being a blankety blank when I say this, but you can do all the social distancing that you want. But when you play the game, it's impossible to social distance. You have to block people. You're getting tackled. You're being covered.
David, even if you don't cover someone, you're still close enough that it's not social distancing. David, there are a lot of linemen who spent games without blocking that still were not social distancing.
Right.
I mean,
so it seems as if all of the protocols and safety measures that you're trying to take, I mean, once you get out on the field, it's kind of like going outside without an umbrella. I mean, you can stay inside for as long as you want, but once you go outside in the rainstorm, you're going to get soaked. I don't know what to tell you. So, to me, how about you just test everybody every day? Is that a crazy idea? You test everybody every day. Every other day. I don't know. I mean, this is a $15 billion industry. Don't tell me you can't afford it. Don't tell me you can't get your hands on them either. We all know. I mean, the NBA
and the
3
NHL
months ago got their hands. Rudy Gobert and the entire Utah Jazz organization, when we didn't know that there were 100 tests available in North America. And apparently the Utah Jazz had enough tests to test the whole damn organization.
Right. If you recall during that time, the complaint was not that the Utah Jazz got tested, was how were they able to get all those tests when we desperately need them for all of these sick people? I mean, people actually complained about the NBA because they were wondering how the hell are they getting all these tests when you got New York and New Jersey desperately needing them.
So, that's
and they have time on their hands to get the tests by the time they open camps.
Now, the other stuff that the NFL is talking about, Mark, maybe shortening the preseason to 2 games. I think it's smart. I mean, especially you're probably not going to have fans at the preseason games. So there's no revenue that's coming from these games. So really, once again, how many preseason games do they play in college, Mark?
0.
There you go. Like the NFL can't just start up the second weekend of September and play? Really? We don't think they can just start up and play.
David, the starters in preseason don't play a game.
No, they might play a half total.
Total.
So
they don't play it all in the fourth game.
Right.
They don't play it all in the first game other than maybe the first drive.
Maybe.
Yep. Second game, they play the first quarter. Third game, some will go into the third quarter. Some. Not all. So they have the equivalent of maybe a game. Tops.
Maybe. The NFL announced yesterday they're going to, over the course of the next 10 years, they're going to spend $250 million to promote social justice. $25 million a year for the next 10 years. What should be noted, and a few people are paying attention, since Roger Goodell came out a week ago and said what he said, there's not one owner to comment about what the commissioner has said. There was not one owner that commented about the announcement yesterday of $250 million over 10 years. There is quite the dichotomy going on between what's coming out of Park Avenue and what's coming out of all the owners, which is silence.
Particularly the owner in Dallas.
Yes.
The owner that
loves the microphone and was pretty adamant that if you took a knee, you wouldn't play for the Cowboys. Right.
I mean, it's one thing for James Dolan not to even put Black Lives Matter in the release from MSG. It's quite another that the NFL owners collectively have remained silent.
Correct. Pete Carroll and the Seahawks, he did a little talking yesterday.
Yes, he
said
did.
A couple of interesting things. He said, one, he regrets not signing Kaepernick back in 2017. They worked him out. He said he had a good workout. They had a good talk. And they ultimately decided not to do it. And Carroll says, I regret that. He also said that a team called him about Kaepernick this week. Didn't reveal the team, but said that a team called him about Kaepernick this week. Interesting. NHL training camps apparently are going to begin July 10th. 17% of the league is out of the country, is what the NHL guesstimates. 1 out of every 6 players. So you're looking at about 4 guys per team that right now are not in the country. So they got about a month to get back here and do whatever quarantine they may have to do, et cetera. But looking at training camps opening up July 10th, and then the season beginning very early August, or resuming, I should say, very early August. And the NBA may move their start date up a day. There was talk yesterday that July 31st may become July 30th as to when it is they're going to resume play.
Their bubble is quite long, like 35 days they're talking, the quarantine NBA bubble. And that was one of the other reasons why the media covering it. I'm like, yeah, I'm not interested in this first part of the season where I've got to be locked in a room for a month.
Well, the other thing that the NBA said yesterday is that if you're a member of the media and you want to cover the league, you either have to be there at the beginning or we may not allow you. That you're either all in for 3 months or you're out. And this is where, to be blunt, many news organizations like, yeah, I don't know if I can afford 3 months of hotel rooms in Orlando. Thank you very much. It's not like they're going to give us a discount.
But it's not like they're going to give you any access as a media member. That was the part of this. For the first initial phase, the round robin or the end of the regular season, there's hardly any media access. So I've got to go commit this money in this time and can't really do a lot of other work. Oh, yeah, and I can't really cover the sport I'm there to cover because you're not going to let me? I mean, I understand what the NBA is doing. I also understand that Disney is going to be wide open when they open camp.
The NCAA is going to consider, before the summer is up, removing Boise, Idaho from the NCAA tournament locations next year. Apparently, Boise is supposed to host a first and second round games in the men's tournament in 2021, but apparently Idaho has a controversial transgender law that they just put on the books, and it has garnered some protest. And so the NCAA may take the the NCAA tournament away from Boise because of the state's law. NJIT left the A-Sun yesterday.
Yes, they did, David.
The A-Sun won't acknowledge it.
No.
They will not admit that this is happening, but this is happening. NJIT, which has been a member of the A-Sun, I believe, for the last 4 years, located in Newark, New Jersey. And yes, geographically, it did not fit with the rest of the conference at all. But NJIT was there 4 years ago when the conference had lost a few members and was on shaky ground and needed a body, quite frankly. And so NJIT was an independent, and they said, hey, this doesn't really work for us, and it doesn't really work for you, but you want to do this little awkward marriage thing? So NJIT is going to join the NEC. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They're going to join America East. Yeah. And they're leaving the A-Sun effective immediately. So it makes the FGCUs of the conference, they've got to scramble and replace their games effective immediately. One other thing, earlier in the week, we had said the U.S. Soccer Federation was going to consider allowing players to kneel in protest when the anthem is played before men's and women's U.S. national team matches. They decided to allow it yesterday.
Wow. I mean,
you can now kneel in protest during the United States anthem before U.S. men's and women's national team matches. Megan Rapinoe in 2016 did it a couple times. Soccer Federation did not like it, passed a rule beginning in 2017 in which you could not do anything other than stand for the anthem. You don't have to stand at attention. You don't have to put your hand over your heart. But they said you had to stand for the anthem. That rule stayed on the books for 3 years. But as of yesterday now, you can kneel in silent protest during the national anthem if you're a men's and women's U.S. national team player.
I'm very surprised by this. Again, it's not the MLS. It's not a women's soccer league. This is the U.S. national team that will compete all over the world wearing the red, white, and blue. It surprises the heck out of me that they did this. And it is a huge risk, in my estimation, of doing this, David. Because, particularly for the women's team, because the men's team sucks. I mean, let's be honest. We're not going to worry about the men's team in this next World Cup, and maybe by the next one we'll have a team that gets people fired up.
Well, and also the men's team's not socially active, Mark. The women are on a variety of issues.
And they may just all take a knee in response to what their pay is. It may not be about police brutality. It may be about the fact that they think they deserve more money than the men.
Right.
And the way they've been treated by the U.S. Soccer Foundation has not been particularly well. And these are the things that, you know, as you said years ago, going back to when this started with Kaepernick, and you penned your column in the news press, I believe, and said that you thought Roger Goodell was going to nip this in the bud now. So
48 hours.
So that if I wanted to kneel in support of transgender rights, no, sorry, we've already passed the rule. And if you wanted to kneel because of whatever rights, no, we already passed the rule.
Right.
So the women's team is the most popular soccer team in our country. As you mentioned, they're the most socially active of the two, really of all of our international teams. Probably the most popular and the most out in front of us. Even the Dream Team, because it's once every 4 years. So what happens for a popular team if they start taking a cause, how much that will affect them? I'm fascinated to watch how this plays out, David.
And at 12 minutes before 7 o'clock, that mark is...
The starting five. 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton Starting Five. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Miller and Moulton will recap yesterday's poll question, the greatest question we've ever asked concerning Mark's stash. And then we've got a simple poll question to go right on through the weekend as well. Pat Kerwin in our 8 o'clock hour. Miller and Moulton, thanks for making us part of your day here on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program.
This
Hawk 24, I would argue that vigilante justice is what happened in Minneapolis. It's what happened in Louisville.
Racism at all in the NFL.
I don't think social justice is vigilante
He
justice.
does know where the NFL was trying to
Sorry,
incentivize
I disagree with you on
teams
that.
to bring in African-American coaches, and you would get a better draft pick. There is racism.
Dan Patrick.
The Dan Patrick Show. Weekdays at 9 a.m. on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
And also, vigilante justice happened in that little town in Georgia. That's actual vigilante justice, where two guys thought they just wanted to make an arrest and killed somebody. That's vigilante justice.
Prices ever on over 1,500 new and certified pre-owned vehicles. Loaded, luxurious Grand Cherokee Limited lease, $289 per month. That's right, Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited, $289 per month. 7-passenger Dodge Journey SUV, just $19,990. Plus at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, you can drive payment-free for 3 months or interest-free for 6 years and worry-free up to 100,000 miles. And our parts service and body shop are open to serve you. Below invoice employee.
I got 4 hours last night, David, all in a row. It was fantastic.
Really?
Yeah. Couldn't sleep at all till midnight, tossed and turned, then I got 4 solid hours. It was awesome.
I got 4 and then 2.
Yeah, I got nothing. I got too restless. I went to bed early, too. I was like, I got to try to get some sleep. Didn't have a drink last night. Took a melatonin to try to get this thing started.
By the way, has the wife stayed away from wine all week?
No. Well, she had a beer. She was only doing it for the $100. Literally told me, she's, I want the $100. I go, so if there wasn't a bet involved, do you drink? She goes, I'd have a drink right now. I go, it's not like I'm going to pay you.
I was going to say.
And if I pay you, it's with your money.
I was going to say, I believe it's communal money. But...
No, right now it's hers. Don't kid yourself. We all know what we're making with the show.
It's Kobe with my Kobe Cooling tip of the day. Kobe Cooling is looking for experienced installers. We're hiring right now for experienced install crews, full-time work with top pay, top benefits, a 401k plan with matching monies, paid vacation, and plenty of work. As the oldest family in this business in the area, we're busy and we need your help. So if you're an experienced air conditioning installer, please apply in person at 4697 Elevation Way in Fort Myers. We're social distancing, so when you get there, call the number on the
I watched, with yesterday being Lombardi's birthday, the NFL Network had, they had 3 documentaries on Lombardi. They had a 2-part documentary, and then they had a special 1 hour on just Lombardi with the Redskins, his final year of coaching.
This message is sponsored by the
Dan Rather narrated it. Talked about how exciting it was. His son was like 8, and in 1969, he goes, we had a new president with Nixon, and, we had Ted Williams as manager of the Senators, and Lombardi comes in with the Redskins. He goes, it was actually, exciting. He goes, all hell was breaking loose in the country, but it was an exciting time in Washington. We're all excited about our sports.
Dan Martineau here, owner of DR Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. We're still finding a lot of roofs with hurricane and windstorm damage. Call us today for a free inspection. Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-1441.
License number CCC 1326954.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is DR Martineau.
Now back to Miller and Moulton.
All right, now we're getting somewhere.
No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
7 minutes before 7 o'clock on this Friday, the 12th of June. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. This and every show on the station streams at FoxSportsFM.com. You can watch, you can listen, you can interact to this show via the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels. Sign up for them. They're free. And you can also just chime into the show on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line, 479-5551, 479-5551.
All right in front of me. Twitch chat room here, YouTube chat room here. Right next to that, Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing.
When I look at you, looking at all of the stuff that is in front of you, I picture you at like NASA control. I feel like you're in Houston. All right.
I have a problem.
Well, besides that.
Okay.
But you know, your eyeballs are constantly dancing from one screen to another. And then, you know, and occasionally you've got to stop paying attention to the lunar modules and you've got to comment. And then you got to go back paying attention to what it is that you're trying to, you know, orbit and land over there. But that's what you look like. You look like, or maybe what an air traffic controller would look like.
All right. Well, one of the things that I've been thinking about with this, and you're right on to something here, is that our camera is above my monitor.
Right.
So my eyes tend to go to the monitor because I'm looking at you, because I can tell with your face when you're about done with a sentence, paragraph, 4-hour story, whatever it may be.
Right.
And I should be looking at the camera. But it's a lot easier because I can't see you when I look up there. Like if the monitor was a little higher, life would be easier for me. But then I can't respond to the Twitch chat people. There's a lot going on over here, David. There is a lot going on. That's all I can tell you.
Well, I think you can only cater to the camera so much.
And after all, we do a radio show.
Correct.
I mean, the last thing I'm worried about is the camera. I'm worried about where you're at, what we're doing. And every once in a while, I check the two other chat rooms are to my left. The YouTube, which is very dull. Very rarely is anything said in there.
Right. Now, I would also argue that you're not paying a whole lot of attention to the camera by that mustache that you're wearing. I mean, because that's quite something. I'm telling you, your wife is going to insist that you shave it this weekend. She is going to give you an ultimatum. Tomorrow is make it happen night. I'm sure there is something social that has been planned.
No, we've got nothing this weekend.
Okay.
We've got nothing.
You may have nothing this weekend if you keep that. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, the vote probably was not as large as what you had hoped for, David, because you dubbed this as the best poll question we've ever had.
Yeah.
Which 20th century athlete does my mustache most resemble? Al Rabowski, Goose Gossage, James Edwards, Conrad Dobler.
I voted for Dobler.
James Edwards dead last, 15%. Rabowski just under 19%. Very disappointed there. Dobler just under 28%. And Rich Goose Gossage was your winner with nearly 39% of the vote.
Wow. All right. So you're San Diego Padres, Goose Gossage?
San Diego Padres, giving up homers to Gibby, Goose Gossage.
Right.
Yes.
Mid-'80s Goose Gossage. That's what you are.
1 minute.
All right. Fair enough. So that was yesterday's poll question. Today, I say we keep it simple. We started talking golf. And, you know, you mentioned that basically the entire purpose of the PGA Tour is to gamble.
The entire purpose of the game. Not just the PGA Tour. The entire purpose of golf is to gamble.
And so we're going to ask you simply, when you play, do you gamble?
Always or never are your choices.
So not some of the time?
No.
No, you're not. You're basically going to force people to choose? Okay. All right. Because I have a feeling it's probably some of the time. But
I get when you're playing with your wife and your kids, you don't gamble. Depends on who your kids are because, you know, Fred was never at all fearful for taking a beer off of his kid. Miller and Moulton. Thanks for listening. Fox Sports Radio.
We've got our good friend Tim Meister, owner of the Floor Meister.
I can go three. I can go
about their huge selection and great pricing on Cortex
always,
flooring.
some of the time,
Tell us
never.
What's new at the store?
Right now we have 90 colors of Cortex in stock, ready to go pick up.
You want three?
Down as soon as you want it.
I guess it's some of the time's going to win.
I do. That's why.
$299 on up with.
How about this? Two choices. Do you prefer to gamble? When you play golf, do you prefer to gamble?
I like it.
And this way we only give people two choices.
I like it.
So you get the softness, quietness, and the easy installation to go with it.
Yes, Nick, it does. Seth, by the way, a very solid late entry. into the mustache debate. Robin Young.
That's a really good call, Sassy. There was a few others thrown in yesterday. I just like the James Edwards because I'm a Piston fan.
This is the story of Daniel, who was born 2 months early. He weighed 1 pound 7 ounces. His lungs were ready.
Boy.
His heart wasn't ready. His brain wasn't ready. At the hospital, the nurses said Daniel was a fighter, and they would do all they could to help him. The doctor said even with the best care, Daniel may never walk. He may never see. He may never learn. Daniel's parents spent night after night at the hospital, watching his every breath, holding his tiny hands, and looking for signs that he was growing stronger. At home, his parents looked around Daniel's empty nursery, at the quiet toys and the still rocker, and they hoped that one day they could sit in that rocking chair and tell this story.
Anita Marks got her 7 matchups today she likes.
One of the more than 500,000 stories.
Rose over DJ, Woodland over Phil, Morikawa over Bubba. I love that Morikawa's playing well. Kisner over Schauffele. I love that she calls him X-Man. Rory over Koepka, Webb over Finau, and Berger over Poulter. There's not one of those I would disagree with, except for I think DJ will play a lot better today.
I think Webb will play a lot better today.
Here's what's trending now, brought to you by the Center for Men's Health, C4MH.com.
So what do we have? We have Pat today? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah. I
never got one, so.
Yeah, I never got one either. So. I wanted Ravel.
There's only one way to wake up in the morning.
It's out west, isn't he?
No, they're in Fort Worth. I thought.
That's it.
Oh, he did it from the course? Okay.
Maybe not.
I thought he was out west.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
Needed content. That's what we've come to.
And Moulton.
Well, we need to explain to her the pilot program, and we need 25 hours of programming a week. So you need to deliver your 12 minutes a day, 5 times a week.
No.
That's an hour, honey.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
All guests appear on the Golden
What?
Noon Abraham hotline.
Hang on.
Goldberg-law.com.
Hang on. Are you flipping kidding me? Is Australian rules football on television right now?
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Couple minutes past 7 o'clock on this Friday, the 12th of June. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at foxsportsfm.com and broadcasting live. And if you are watching right now on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch TV channels, Mark Miller has just signaled touchdown 15 times in a row and is jumping up and down. What is going on?
David, I have goosebumps. The hair on my arms is literally standing right now. As I'm perusing Twitter as we're coming back on, Pat McAfee tweets out, "This AFL in the morning routine is making my life better." Who needs coffee when you have these massive Aussie dudes slaughtering each other and bombing balls? ESPN2 right now, footy's back. Australian rules football is on ESPN2. Instead of that god-awful morning show that they've been putting on there for years that is virtually unwatchable, I have Australian rules football. One of the greatest sports ever. I didn't mean to stop and derail the show like this, David. I did not mean to. But sometimes actions are necessary. Empty stands in Melbourne, but we're playing Australian rules football.
Makes you think back to some of what ESPN aired in their early days.
The glory days. Scholastic Sports of America with Chris Fowler.
Yes.
Vic's Vacant Lot.
CFL football, and lots of it. Billiards.
A lot of billiards.
A lot of
7-ball and 9-ball.
Yes.
Where I learned what 9-ball was on ESPN. Had no idea it was even a game as I was a young adolescent.
I would watch it during the day and go to the pool hall in Scranton, Pennsylvania at night.
And we'd go down to the Furlough basement after watching him play 9-ball. I was 7th, 8th grade. Used to do a lot of watching. Then let's go play some of this stuff. Oh, Australian rules football. I'm just giddy. I'm giddier about that than I am about our poll question, and I love our poll question.
Our poll question, and we're not giving you an out. We're making you declare. So when you golf, do you prefer to gamble? It's yes or no. Basically, you got to let us know. Do you prefer to gamble? And believe it or not, I don't. For as much as I like gambling, when I golf, I just want to play. I'm competing against myself, and that's more than enough for me.
Yeah. And see, I always just compete against myself in golf, but I like the action. The action doesn't change the way I play. It makes the camaraderie of the 4 participants more fun for me. It's fun to get up on the 18th hole in a match, whatever's going on, and just look at your opponents and go, yeah, I'm pressing. Don't know what to tell you. I'm either going to lose $20 to you or I'm going to break even.
So when you play golf, do you prefer to gamble? Yes or no?
And outside of playing with my dad, I can't recall not gambling on the golf course. Because in a tournament, you're essentially gambling. Tournaments, when I play them, usually there's not a lot of side bets. But every tournament I play in, I've got 50 side bets going on for the week. So I guess I am gambling.
My grandfather had a group of guys that he always played with. And they would, when their round was over, and they'd go to the 19th hole there and have a sandwich and a couple of cocktails. And then they'd sit down and take the cards out, and they'd figure out, because they would play whatever the bets were, they were placed at the beginning of the round. There was no pressing, doubling down, none of that. And so then they would sit down and they would figure out, who won what. And they bet for the smallest amounts of money. And I mean, there were guys in that group who had serious cash. And also, Mark, they were a group of men who all were carrying around cash. They were money clip guys. They showed up at the round of golf, cash. Here you go. Boom. And yet they were playing for peanuts. I literally one time said to them, is this really all we're playing for today? Like, if I play really well, I may win $10. Really? So, that's another thing. When you play golf, what kind of stakes do you play for?
And I don't play for that much. Like, I don't need to have action. I know some people who play for money when they play. I don't have money. I mean, my standard bet's a $5 Nassau. When I play most of my games with my group at the place that I play, there's kind of a standard game that it's usually about $30 to play for all the things going on. There'll be, 3 $5 bets, a skins bet here and a skins bet here. And it's like you finish and you pay someone 30, and at the end of the day, they figure out who gets money. But I don't have the kahunas or the bankroll to do that type of stuff. That's crazy. I mean, I loved, was it the Caddy, Rick Riley's book, where he caddied for Daly and he caddied for an LPGA player. But one of the caddying jobs he did was in this huge money gambling game. And it was just crazy, the amount of money that these guys are betting one another.
Well, and I told you I had a steady loop during my caddy days in which, we called it the Mafia Group. everybody in the group's name ended with a vowel. All right. And they played for serious cash. Thousands of dollars exchanged hands during the course of every Thursday afternoon round. And it all on site too. There was no, hey, you owe me. No, you had to, they'd walk off the final green. They'd figured out, people reached into their pockets and peeled off $100 bills. And I told you the one time, apparently the whole match came down to about a 15-foot putt on the final hole. We went off the back and we finished on 9. And it just so happened that they hadn't moved the pins. And I had played the hole 2 days earlier and had the exact same putt. And they never called me in for anything. And all of a sudden, there's probably a $5,000 putt. And Mr. Caruso pulled me in and said, hey, how does this go? Now, first off, the other guys in the group started howling. Honestly, I've been their four caddy for 3 years. Besides me handing them clubs and beers, they haven't asked me for anything. I clean the golf ball, find the golf ball. But I don't do a club selection.
Wipe the club down.
Yeah. I don't read a putt and I don't make a club selection. Now, all of a sudden, the most money they've ever played for, final putt of the thing. And all of a sudden they call in the 17-year-old kid and go, hey, how do you think this goes? Okay. Well, the other guys start going nuts and it's like, hey, it's not illegal. I can ask him his opinion. And literally I got guys yelling at me going, kid, you read this putt right, you're done. And so, happened to read it right and he made it. And he literally on the 9th green, he peels off 3 $100 bills and hands it to me.
Damn right he did.
17 years old.
What'd you buy?
I didn't. I
took them all straight home?
I took it all. My mom and I had a deal, all right, in which I was caddying for college. And so I took all my money home outside of paying for lunch. All right. I took all my money home. We threw it on the thing and then it got divvied up. And then basically, it's like, here, you can have this. And I was allowed to keep maybe 50 of it. And the rest went in the bank.
See, this to me is, I waited tables for many years in my younger life. And if you sit at a table, if you come in and you're a group of, at some restaurant, 6 or more, 8 or more, it's pretty customary to have the automatic gratuity put on.
Right. 18% usually.
And there were a lot of people in the industry that didn't feel the need to tell the customer that they had already added the gratuity on. And it's what we referred to in the business as the double dip. Now, sometimes you would have, a European table or someone that didn't speak English and you would get it and it just kind of happened. But those would happen from time to time. And I look at this, David, as a double dip. You don't share the double dip. The double dip is yours. That's extra.
It should have been.
I give you, and if Mom's listening right now, you owed him more than 50. He needed at least 100 out of that. And you should probably feel pretty proud of yourself as a mother. And I mean that with all sincerity, because you had driven in such a message with your son that he was too chicken blank to peel off a $100 bill and say, I got tipped $200. He was too chicken blank to peel off 2 $100 bills and say, Mom, you'll never believe the big match. I read a putt and they tipped me $100 today. Because flat out, if you'd have just thrown the hundo down, Mom would have bought it.
Here's my fear.
Total fear.
As to why I told the truth. I honestly thought leaving the club that I had lost the match. Because the other guys were honked. They really were. They were, and I thought they were going to take it out on me and that I was done. And, it was a steady loop. It was Thursday afternoon and it was easy. You carry putters around and a towel. You follow the golf ball, you clean the golf ball, you hand everybody their putters, you tend the pin.
Yeah, they're all in carts, right? When they're all in carts. So you just got to run out and head, find balls. Hey, Mr. Habershamp, your ball's over here.
Exactly.
Get up by the green.
Yeah, rake the occasional trap.
Right.
Absolutely. They played around, they played in 3 hours, and they played for big money and they didn't care. And not only that, they'd throw me a drink or two. along the way. So they took care of me. So I didn't want to lose this loop, Mark. They paid top dollar. It was easy. It was fun.
So 300 plus you usually usually was it a 20 a guy extra on top of what you got? I mean, was the tip $10 a guy back then?
If you got $10 a guy back then, that was solid.
I know, but when a Mafia match, I would think you'd be getting the $10 a head.
Yeah, I got $50 for the group. The group would give me 50.
So this was did you get the 50 on top of the 3 singles?
Yes, I got the 50, and then he peeled off 3 $100 bills.
So you claimed the whole 350 with Mom?
Well, I kept the 50 and the 3 went in the bank. Wow. Right. Because I was worried, Mark. I really was. Next week when I showed up, I thought that the other members of the group were like, well, we're done with this guy. So, of course, what happens, immediately, first hole next week, a guy asked me to read a putt just to bust the other guy in the group and this, that, and the other thing. And I remember saying, we going to make a habit of this? Which they loved, but guy was still bitter from the week before, etc. So,
hey, Spider, you better be careful with those comments here. You might have been walking around with one leg the next week.
I had to make, I had about one comment a year.
That's more kahunas than hiding the money from your mother, if you know what I mean, David.
Right.
But I'm going to apologize to Mom Moulton today. I hope she's listening. I've given her grief on 2 or 3 occasions over 15 years. She still holds a grudge for every one of the times that I've done it. And I don't expect the grudge to dissipate with this, but you're one scary lady. I mean, if you can keep that guy from trying to swindle a C note out of that, I'm impressed. I'm more impressed today than I've ever been.
As my mother joked when we were growing up, this is a benevolent dictatorship. And she would also look at me and say, I'm working 3 jobs and it's just you and me. I don't have time for you to misbehave. I'm just telling you that right now. I don't have time. Okay? I need you to be where I need you to be when I need you to be there.
David, even with the greatest benevolent dictatorships, there's always been a coup. And you failed, and not failed, you rightfully never attempted a coup. That would have been 17 years old, think about this. Is 1985, 84?
No, 83.
Okay, 1983. You're in Jersey. You've got $350 in your pocket.
Right.
This basically is the beginning to Born to Run.
I could go to Atlantic City. Absolutely. We were there.
I mean, this is either Rosalita or Born. I don't know what it is, David, but this is picking up your girl and, heading out west with $350.
I could have gone to the Meadowlands, done some harness racing that night. I could have taken the train into the city. I mean, I am loaded. Are you kidding me? For those of you that saw the stash that I had when I got married 24 years ago, imagine a stash 10 years younger, so it's half.
Oh, cheesier?
Yeah.
That's your porn stash days.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Between Gabe Kaplan and Ron Jeremy. Absolutely. That was my stash going on back then. Oh, yeah.
This all leads into our poll question today, which is, when you play golf, do you prefer to gamble? Right now, David Moulton winning this question. Your side. The nose out in front early. It'll be up all weekend. And if I lose this, yikes.
This will rock you. This will be like me the first half of this year where I lost every poll question and I felt as if I was no longer in touch with our audience.
David, this is bigger than that to me. This is when you found out Manny Ramirez was doing juice, and for whatever reason, that just buckled your knees.
Couldn't believe it.
I don't know how you couldn't believe it.
Couldn't believe it.
But the way that buckled you 8-10 years ago, whenever it was, it'll buckle me like that.
08, 09. Yeah. Yeah, that was almost 12 years ago now. 479-5551, 479-5551, the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. Speaking of gambling and golf, apparently yesterday, the most bet-on round of golf in the history of the PGA Tour. Between 3 months of pent-up demand and also a whole bunch of big names in the field. And they put special groups together. I mean, the 1, 2, and 3 ranked players in the world were all playing in the same group. I mean, it had some fun groupings, and also the course played easy. So you had a feeling that some guys could go low, and that makes you more inclined to also throw a few shekels out there as well.
Well, it was great, and the tour did a nice job. There's no fans. If you have fans in an event, you don't want to put those groups together. You want to spread the gallery out so that people they're not all around 2 groups. But with no fans, stick them all together. 8 hours of golf I watched, or 7 hours of golf I watched yesterday. I had it on from noon until 7, and I had it on as soon as the show ended for whatever, the morning drive and whatever else they were doing. I had the Golf Channel on in my house for over 12 hours yesterday.
Damn. My goodness. I mean, it was nice to have it back, but...
From Damon Hack in the morning right on through until the post-match coverage, man. I took it all in yesterday.
I did watch a little Rich Lerner, Brandel Chambly postgame yesterday. So I don't know. How much did you listen to the golf coverage yesterday? To the difference of, Nance and 2 on-course reporters were the only people there, and everybody else was in an Orlando studio. Did you listen at all?
I didn't listen. It was very much like the way I normally watch a golf tournament on a Thursday or Friday. It's on. I mean, I went swimming with my daughter, did some cleaning up, made dinner, did all the things I normally do. Just the Golf Channel was on in the background all day, like sometimes music's on in the background all day. And all of a sudden, you see a couple players that are playing well, and you're going to watch a few more shots. As you mentioned, Spieth had a nice round yesterday. You and I were just talking about him as far as Ryder Cup and how far back he's not on that list. But he played well yesterday. If he putts, he scores.
Well, and the other part of the Ryder Cup is they made a change this week in which now only 6 automatic spots, and Steve Stricker is going to get 6 captain's picks. And I'm telling you, I think Spieth is in contention for the captain's picks because he can roll it. And let's face facts. The Americans don't make putts in the Ryder Cup. We don't.
Ricky does occasionally.
Tell you
but
what.
He hasn't in 2 or 3. I mean, that's the Ryder Cup that we lost that he played so well trying to fight back in.
You know what? Ricky Fowler, for a guy who is known as such a good putter, misses a lot of putts. Now, they all look like they're going in. They're all burning the edges. But Ricky does not make consistently nearly as many putts as I think people believe he makes.
Well, I think you're right. I think he is arguably the most overrated golfer in the sport. He's super likable. He does 6 gazillion commercials, but he doesn't win.
No, he doesn't.
Period.
No.
He does. Matt Kuchar looks at Ricky Fowler and goes, man, that guy can't win a tournament.
Well, take it easy now. But I was going to say, their resumes at Ricky's age are similar. Kuchar's got him by about 10 years now, but at Ricky's age and Kuchar's age, I think career wins were right around the same.
So it is a bit of a misnomer because Ricky is highly thought of as being one of the elites, and it's because he hangs out with all the elites. He's right there. He's on that group that's next.
He can hit the ball with them, but I'm telling you, he does not make as many putts as people think he makes. You know what was interesting to see yesterday for a while? Couldn't hold it together, which happens as you get older.
Phil
first off, Phil looks great, although he also looked like Tom Cruise for the first half of the round as he was playing the front 9 with shades on. I mean, they were joking. He looked like a cop. Looked like he was going to pull over the other members of his group. He looked like he was in the state patrol. But Phil looks, it's as thin and as in shape as Phil's been since maybe the 90s.
And if he's thin and in shape, Bryson DeChambeau is trying to take on Brooks Koepka for largest person on the tour. And I'm sorry, he went from like 195 to 235. I'm going to say it out loud right now. He's taking something.
Yeah, thank you.
He's taking, I don't know if it's steroids. I don't know if it's growth hormone. I don't know what it is. You do not bulk up like that without sticking a needle in your arse.
Do you remember when Lenny Dykstra showed up at spring training one year, 25 plus pounds heavier than he was when the season ended? So like 3.5 months went by, and all of a sudden Lenny Dykstra, who's this scrawny, top of the order, center fielder, and Lenny Dykstra shows up and he's, thick and muscular, and he's hitting home runs in spring training, and people are like, what happened? Oh, I was just working out a lot. Okay.
Right. I mean, they showed this side by side of Bryson from time back to now. He's huge.
Huge. I mean, honestly, you're right. He's trying to challenge Koepka physically.
And better mustache, Koepka or Fowler?
Oh, Koepka. I think Fowler's mustache is horrible.
Horribly great, though.
Well, it's straight. It's Ron Jeremy. I mean, it's a straight porn stash. So I think Koepka's is a legitimate stash.
Love that Ricky and Koepka are in my mindset. Let's do something goofy on the upper lip.
I'll tell you what, though, they both continue, especially if Ricky putts a couple rounds more like he did yesterday, that stash will be gone.
I'd tell him just to shave half of it.
25 minutes past 7 o'clock. 479-5551, 479-5551. Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing. Text and talk line. Today was the day when, coming up in 20 minutes. Pat Kerwin in an hour here on Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
This is the Herd with
David, did we talk politics on the air in the first hour?
No.
I didn't think we did either. Someone said he turned us off for the second day because of the political discussions. Can you please keep it to a minimum? And I'm like, when did we discuss politics? I'm like, please tell me. I know we do during commercial breaks occasionally, so if you're watching on Twitch or YouTube, you hear the breaks. And he hasn't responded. Like, I know the one guy who I did comment to Aux24. He made a political comment. I answered his political comment off air during a break. But I don't ever remember saying anything on air. We did the starting five. I mean, this came at 6:52. We hadn't even started our third segment yet.
I wonder if he's got us confused with another show.
To keep your family safe. At Wink Weather, our mission comes down to one thing.
Your peace of mind.
The best equipped, most experienced weather team. Trust Wink News, the weather authority.
I mean, we go out of our way not to talk politics.
Are you ready for this? Only Naples Nissan will give.
I've sent 3 texts because I'm like that one concerned. I don't think we did. I'd like to know what it is we said.
Hundreds of new SUV models.
I'll go back and listen to the first 48 minutes of the show.
Unlimited mile lifetime warranty. Pick out your favorite.
Ooh, I played that course. Awesome.
Come see us on Pine Ridge Road to find out the KBB.com current market value for your trade-in. We'll give you $8,000 more so you can drive that brand new Nissan home today. If KBB says it's worth $5,000, Naples Nissan will give you $13,000. If KBB says $10,000, we'll give you $18,000. You must act fast, though. Visit NaplesNissan.com for full details.
I got something here.
Good.
No matter where you're boating, with Towboat US, you're covered by the world's largest towing fleet with over 300 ports nationwide. Your local Towboat US companies in Charlotte, Lee, and Collier counties are here to help 24/7, 365 days a year. Inland, the river to Lake O, and out 75 nautical miles. And new membership pricing starts as low as $99. Call 239-945-1664 for more information. Or visit TowboatUSCapeCoral.com. With Towboat US, you're never stuck on the water.
We've got our good friend Tim Meister, owner of the Floor Meisters in Naples, on the phone. We're talking about their huge selection and great pricing on Core-Tech flooring. Tim, tell us what's new at the store.
Right now we have 90
HW would have been 96 today.
Pick up, put down as soon as you want it. Everything from starting at $299 on up with lifetime warranty.
And it's not just the many colors of
Good man. I liked him.
You also have other Core-Tech products as well.
We also carry the Core-Tech Stone product. Looks like tile, looks like stone, but it's Core-Tech, so you get
certainly
the
all miss
softness, quietness, and the easy installation to go with it. We also have Core-Tech wood, look of wood, real wood, but with a more stable core for Southwest Florida's humidity.
If you haven't been to the Floormeisters, you really owe it to yourself.
Had the courage to admit he didn't like broccoli.
Naples Boulevard, right next to Costco.
Remember?
Or go online.
What a big deal that was when he said, sorry, can't fake it, can't lie.
I don't like it either. Of the vegetables out there, I can do it, but I'm not a big broccoli fan.
Where I'm from, marijuana is legal. Can I use it in Florida?
Nah, brah.
Nah, it's illegal.
You gotta throw a bra in there, man. It's totally.
Should I at least try to get medical marijuana?
That's legal. But if I were you, I'd talk to my doctor about qualifying conditions and to find out.
I wouldn't. I'd talk to one of the weed doctors because they'll get you a prescription. Your doctor's not going to give you one.
Looking for a frameless shower door? My Shower Door has just opened their 8th Florida showroom, and it's conveniently located in Cape Coral. With more than 75,000.
There was a little thing they were doing in Billiards, and they pulled like a Houdini on this thing, and they're kind of going through it. And finally, one of them goes, "Didn't he die when he did that trick?"
News Press and Naples News for 17 consecutive years. It's been named as Lee County's Manufacturer of the Year. Want to see more? Go to myshowerdor.com.
I'm a busy person. Catch the show anytime. Check out MillerandMoulton.com and subscribe to the daily podcasts. Here we go. Now back to Miller and Moulton. No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Halfway home, it's 7:30 here on Miller and Moulton. Thanks so much for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. A reminder, Southwest Florida's Gulf Shore strong, and as businesses continue to reopen and try to get back to some semblance of normalcy, we want to hear from you. We want to help you out. Call us at 479-5577. Just tell us the name and location of your business, and, you may hear yourself on the radio. We'll let people know you're back, and we're rooting for you. No one's rooting harder for Southwest Florida than us here at Fox Sports Radio, so record your message at 479-5577, and maybe we can help you out a little bit.
That's what we try to do, right? Little help. What is a little help with our friends? So yesterday, David, I caught this story because we put the poll question up about the mustache, and right. Charles sent a reply saying, "This is why I don't like polls," with a picture of Seinfeld, of Newman, Kramer, and Keith Hernandez. And he was kind of referring to Hernandez's terrific mustache.
Right.
Well, it was funny because I happened to be, when I was on Twitter at that point, literally just before this guy sent this to me, Mike Vaccaro tweeted out from the Post, and I know you're a big Post reader, tweeted out his story of the day. He had been doing like a 5-part series on the best of New York sports history. And he is doing it on the best pop cameos in pop culture. And it's about the boyfriend episode of Seinfeld. And we forget that this episode was pretty early on in the Seinfeld run. Seinfeld was not a hit. It was popular, but it was not a smash at this point. And he had finished playing. Boris is his agent, and they're pretty good friends. And he's he knew what the show was, but he just retired. And he says he hadn't watched, but he was intrigued. Boris told him the gig paid $15,000. Hernandez says sold. So he gets the script on Friday. This was a Thursday. He gets the call, gets the script FedExed, and on Saturday he's on a plane to L.A. And he realizes, as he's reading the script, that he is not doing a cameo, but he's the guest star. This is a full-on acting gig. Hernandez has never acted. No, this is Jerry Seinfeld picking out his idol from the Mets and wanting to put him in a show. That's all this is.
Seinfeld, a big Mets fan. And yes.
So he says, what have I gotten myself into? But one of his friends, Marsha Mason, who happened to be a, Academy Award or Academy nominated actress, He called her and says, what am I doing? How do I do this? And she says, memorize the lines. Memorize the lines. She said, memorize line 1, then memorize 2, then 1 + 2 + 3, and so on. So, as the athlete, she says, do on your lines every night before you go to bed. That was the big thing. Before you go to bed, I'm telling you, they'll percolate in your mind as you sleep, and you'll get it. So he says by the time he went to L.A., he said he didn't know just his lines. He knew the whole script. He had every line memorized. But he was still terrified. I mean, said terrified. He said a couple of things happened. One, Seinfeld really lightened him up. And he's like, you played in front of 50,000 people every night. There's 200 people out there. That was one that calmed him down. But after the fact, there were people who thought that this was the make or break show for this whole thing. And, it goes down. Apparently it was like the number 4 all-time episode
really?
In television. It was put down.
Come on,
David. It was TV Guide ranked it in 97. TV Guide ranked it 4th on the 100 greatest television episodes of all time.
Wow.
I mean, you have to remember, I watched one scene from it. It is when Seinfeld and Newman and Kramer, and he goes into the JFK.
Right.
I mean, I watched that yesterday. I don't know how many takes that had to go through without them laughing, but it stands the test of time. But Larry David really thought that it was the make or break episode for the show. That if that episode failed, Larry David believed when he was doing the episode that it was it. And Hernandez says, thank goodness he didn't tell me that until after we taped it.
Yeah,
and Hernandez
really?
to this day has only watched it twice. But I thought that was a fascinating story because Hernandez is probably not working for the Mets without that. I mean, he may be, but this catapulted him into the broadcast world because he was not good. He was terrific.
And also Keith was, how shall I put this? Mercurial. All right. It all depended on when you caught Keith Hernandez. Keith Hernandez could be talkative and charming, and Keith could be a blankety blank. And I caught him one of each for what it's worth. And so, and if Keith had a bad day, he wasn't necessarily easy to deal with around his locker and all that. He was talkative, though. And so the media liked him because he was smart. He liked to talk baseball. He got to the ballpark early. And so he was friendly with the writers, et cetera. A bit of an old school guy, but that's interesting.
But yeah,
it's funny
because he named his book, because his line, I'm Keith Hernandez, is his little line. And that he said came from Seinfeld. You're Keith Hernandez. And so that's kind of where he cued that from. But he even ended up writing a book. The name of his book is I'm Keith Hernandez. I mean, but this was in 92. The show aired in 92. We're not that far in to Seinfeld in 92.
No, in fact, Seinfeld had, it was, I think, a summer replacement, and then it got like half a season the next year. I mean, it took a while. It took till like the 3rd network season for it to get like a regular run.
Right. This was 33 episodes into the Seinfeld show. It's not, that's beginning of season 3?
That's a year and a half of a normal.
So season 2.
22 episodes, gotcha. 23 episodes in a year normally. So
I'm so used to HBO shows now with 13 episodes, David. I'm confused.
Yeah. Network TV, you get about 22, 23 in a normal year. So for a network TV show, that's about a year and a half in as a run. But I think that was year 3 that Seinfeld had actually been on because they had only gotten, fits and starts.
And again, that is not, and it was an hour-long show. So that's your big one.
Right.
I mean, that can be your jump the shark moment, if you know what I mean.
No doubt. When Jerry Stiller died a few weeks ago, the Seinfeld cast, besides the fact that they were heartbroken, that they all started releasing clips. And what Larry David and Jerry released was they released outtakes, and that Jerry Stiller was so funny that the rest of them couldn't keep it together. And it was just minute upon minute of, Elaine and Jason Alexander and Seinfeld and all of them, that. And also it showed Jerry Stiller how he would take a character and ad-lib it and always go bigger. And so the bigger he went with it, the more they would laugh. But it was interesting to see how a character could develop just by doing takes, that the actor or actress decides, I'm going to take this and run with it.
I've watched a few of these behind the scenes, more just I'm on YouTube and I'll see something. I watched a Friends one where it was very similar, that they kind of worked on jokes and had different lines and really allowed them to work with the writers to find the right line and try different things ultimately to get where they wanted to go. But I just, that Keith Hernandez episode is so memorable on that show. And the fact that he was that terrified, I thought was a good story. And just some of the fun things that are out there, all of these, they're still searching. I mean, we've got Australian rules football, Bundesliga.
Well,
did I get that right?
Bundesliga. A little more German.
Bundesliga.
Right.
Is that better? Okay, I got that one. We got some Aussie football. We got some car racing, and we got some golf. That's in Korean baseball. That's where we are.
And it was a big story in the New York metropolitan area anyway in the last 24 hours. Apparently, Mr. Chase, who, because was it yesterday or the day before that you said it was the 13th anniversary of the last episode of The Sopranos?
Yes, that was yesterday. It was yesterday.
Was it yesterday?
Yesterday was the anniversary of the end of The Sopranos and was also the actual anniversary, at least by the date on the screen of Goodfellas, of Billy Batts getting whacked.
Right. 50 years ago yesterday, Billy Batts got whacked, and it was either yesterday or the day before was the 13th anniversary of the final episode of The Sopranos. So apparently the creator of The Sopranos, Mr. Chase, messed up. They were talking about the final episode and the final scene and this, that, and the other thing, and he let it slip that I guess the interviewer had asked him that, hey, had you thought of, the word is that you had thought of the ending long in advance. And he said, yes. Okay. I had thought of, and he basically referred to it as a kill scene 2 years earlier, at which point the interviewer stops and says, you just acknowledged that he gets whacked. At which point Chase curses at him.
Yes. Yes.
So, and I never thought he got whacked.
Well, apparently you were wrong.
Right.
I always did.
Okay. And there you go. And now obviously it was the two endings, the whole, they had always joked about it. If things were just going to go dark, somebody was going to go and whack you from behind, and then that's it. It just goes dark, which is how it ended. All right. And the music stops and all that. Or whether or not, it just, okay, it continued. And in which there he is always looking over his shoulder. Somebody always out to get him. And so, but apparently the intent behind it was he got whacked.
Yeah. Chase did not like that he mistakenly gave out that information.
Right. And it was not
correct.
A trick question.
No.
I mean, literally the interviewer's throwing them in underhanded, hey, when was it that you thought about, how you were going to end the series? And he said, I had thought about, killing Tony off 2 years earlier. Wait, what? Yeah.
The prequel is, I believe, coming out in the fall.
I thought it was now pushed back to March.
Is it? Okay. I'm fired up.
I am too.
I am one of those weirdos that I can binge watch a show with the best of them. I have no problem with Netflix shows. Watch quite a few of them, or Amazon Prime. But there's something about being excited about Sunday at 9 o'clock or Sunday at 10 o'clock. I'm that way with Billions. I love that show. And I tape it, and sometimes Sundays are just Sundays, and I go to bed. But there's something about appointment television still in my brain that my kid would never understand, but you and I still think have that in us. You know, sports is appointment television. It's nice to have a show. It's nice to have a show that you so look forward to that you want to get in front of your television at a certain time. Game of Thrones was that for a lot of people.
I agree. I mean, if you wait a week and you're foaming at the mouth for that college or pro football game that you can't wait for every week, well, isn't it the same feeling if you can get that one-hour drama at 8, 9, 10 o'clock, usually on a Sunday, but maybe it's on a Thursday night, whenever. It's that one show that you're like, oh, man, can't wait. Another week of blank. Okay. I'm with you, Mark. But then again, we're of a certain age where we had to wait a week.
Yeah, no. I mean, I totally understand where someone in their 20s or 30s thinks I'm insane right now. I get it. Because at the same time, I like my Amazon Prime show and my Ozarks and things like that I can just say, hey, honey, you want to watch another Miss Maisel? Okay, let's watch it right now. Fine. It's just not the same as getting excited because a show is going to be on and I have to wait till a certain time to watch it.
Our poll question, when you play golf, do you prefer to gamble? Yes or no?
I got to check the numbers. This is killing me.
That Mark Miller, the David Moulton, millerandmoulton.com.
I'm just saying the gamblers aren't completely awake yet. That's all I'm hoping for.
Really? You think they overdid it yesterday? Is that what
Thursday?
You're saying?
It was Thursday, so it's possible.
Gotcha.
Where are my gamblers? I'm going to have to tweet this out to the Action Network if this keeps up.
Don't cheat now.
Oh, I'll cheat.
Don't cheat.
Don't be a spreader.
You are taking this one very personally.
David, I don't know what to tell you. This one's personal. The mustache thing didn't bother me a bit, and my picture was on that. This one I'm taking personally.
479-5551 is how you can chime in via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line 479-5551. Today was the day when is next. Pat Kerwin next hour on Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Drive home with the Doug Gottlieb Show.
Drew Brees took about as middle a stance as you can possibly take. We want freedom of speech, except when somebody disagrees with our perspective. I mean, it's the most embarrassing, hypocritical thing that we do as American people. So we do it, and the cycle continues. And here we are.
Doug Gottlieb, afternoons at 3 on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
At Wink News, we've invested millions in the technology that shows you approaching storms. First, fast, and local.
And during hurricane season, we know the weather is what you're watching for.
We've got tools no other station has to show you what you need to know to keep your family safe.
At Wink Weather, our mission comes down to one thing.
Your peace of mind.
The best equipped, most experienced weather team. Trust Wink News, the weather authority.
Attention, Southwest Florida. Are you ready for this? Only Naples Nissan will give you $8,000 over Kelley Blue Book value for your trade-in. Hundreds of new SUV models to choose from, all backed by our exclusive unlimited mile lifetime warranty. Pick out your favorite at naplesnissan.com. Then come see us on Pine Ridge Road to find out the KBB.com current market value for your trade-in. We'll give you $8,000 more so you can drive that brand new Nissan home today. If KBB says it's worth $5,000, Naples Nissan will give you $13,000. If KBB says 10, we'll give you 18. You must act fast, though. Visit naplesnissan.com for full details. Offer on select models with approved credit and cannot be combined.
Great news, Southwest Florida. Below invoice employee pricing at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. That's right. Below invoice pricing on Chrysler Pacificas, Jeep Wranglers, Jeep Gladiators, and heavy-duty Ram trucks. Over 1,500 new and certified pre-owned vehicles in stock. Loaded, luxurious Grand Cherokee Limited lease. 0 down, $269 per month. That's right. Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited. 0 down, $269 per month.
Well,
Plus
bourbon
Galliana
drinkers are
Chrysler
supposed to be
Dodge Jeep
gamblers,
Ram.
though.
You can drive payment
Yeah,
free for
this
4
is
months. interest-free for 6 years, and worry
Taking this hard.
100,000
Not gonna lie.
Our parts service and body shop are open to serve you. Below invoice employee pricing at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, 1/2 mile south of Daniels Parkway on US 41 in Fort Myers. Open every day, including Sunday. Call 239-481-2600. GallianaCars.com. 42 monthly sum, 10,000 miles per year, 0 due signing plus tax, title, doc, and dealer fee, 0 security deposit, $13.88 per month, 1,000 borrowed for 72 months at 0 APR with 0 down with lender approval.
We've got our good friend Tim Meister, owner of the Floor Meisters in Naples, on the phone. We're talking about their huge selection and great pricing on Core-Tech flooring. Tim, tell us what's new at the store.
Right now we have 90 colors of Core-Tech in stock, ready to go, pick up, put down as soon as you want it. Everything from starting at $299 on up with lifetime warranty.
And it's not just the many colors of Core-Tech that you have. You also have other Core-Tech products as well.
We also carry the Core-Tech stone product. Looks like tile, looks like stone, but it's Core-Tech, so you get the softness, quietness, and the easy installation to go with it. We also have Core-Tech wood, look of wood, real wood, but with a more stable core for Southwest Florida's humidity.
If you haven't been to the Floor Meisters, you really owe it to yourself to visit the store. 6281 Naples Boulevard, right next to Costco, or go online, floormeisters.com. That's floormeisters.com.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
Dan Martineau here, owner of D.R. Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. I've been repairing and replacing roofs for 27 years. We operate with integrity, knowledge, and service. Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-1441.
License number CCC 1326954.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is D.R. Martineau.
When we talk the talk,
this is what we talk about.
He's talking about right and wrong.
We back it up.
Talk about what you know.
We're Fox Sports Radio. And when we talk the talk,
A lot of sports stuff to talk about.
we back it up.
Good sports talk radio.
On Fox Sports Radio. Here we go. Now back to Miller and Moulton. No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Ten minutes before 8 o'clock, Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. You can chime in via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line, 479-5551. And you can always interact with the show if you take it in via the Miller and Moulton YouTube and or Twitch TV channels. They're free, they're interactive, and at least for another day, you get to see Mark's stash before his wife makes him shave it.
That could have been the poll question. Will I have the stash on Monday?
No.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. But now it is time for
Miller and Moulton's Today Was the Day When, giving you the history of today's date so you're a beacon of useless knowledge around the office.
Useless, but a lot of fun to talk about.
This is Today Was the Day When, Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
All right, today we start in 1919 at Brayburn Country Club in Boston. Of course, I was lucky enough to play one time. U.S. Open, Walter Hagen defeats Mike Brady by one stroke in an 18-hole playoff to win his second and final U.S. Open. 1923, Harry Houdini frees himself from a straitjacket while suspended upside down 40 feet above the ground in New York City. There's none of that I'd want to be a part of, hanging upside down from 40 feet nor being in a straitjacket.
Right.
Lou Gehrig in 28 collects 14 total bases in a 15-7 win over the White Sox. 2 triples, 2 home runs. Think about that. Think about that. 2 triples and 2 home runs. Crazy. 1939 U.S. Open at the Philadelphia Cricket Club. Byron Nelson wins. Also on that day, the Baseball Hall of Fame is dedicated in Cooperstown. 1942, as a birthday present, this young lady gets a diary. Her name was Anne Frank. 1948, at Riviera, Ben Hogan wins the U.S. Open, 3rd of his 9 major titles. Also on that day, Eddie Acaro, aboard Citation, wins the Belmont and his second Triple Crown. 1950.
And That would be the last Triple Crown until Secretariat.
Correct, yes. 1954, Bill Haley's Rock Around the Clock is originally released.
My mother had that as a 45. I remember I played the you-know-what out of it growing up as a kid.
1954, the first no-hitter in County Stadium when Braves pitcher Jim Wilson throws a no-no against the Phillies. 1968, Rosemary's Baby released. Great movie. It's a terrific movie. It's a Roman Polanski, and he's whacked. 70, Doc Ellis no-hits the Padres. I don't know if this was the LSD.
Yes, this was the 50th anniversary of this supposed LSD no-hitter. Yep.
All I know is in college when I did that, there was people in a bush talking to me. I don't know how you could pitch 9 innings. I was at a party, went out to relieve myself, and the bush was talking to me. It was a scary 90 seconds. I have no idea how Doc Ellis could go through a whole game on the mound.
Well, maybe the bush was telling him to throw strikes. I don't know.
1979, the Tigers fire Les Malls and hire Sparky Anderson, who would go on to give the Tigers their first World Series since '68. Raiders of the Lost Ark premiered today in 1981. Same day, Larry Holmes TKO's Leon Spinks in 3 for the WBC title. 1987 was the day that Ronald Reagan challenged Gorbachev to tear down this wall. 1990, Rickey becomes the second to steal 900 bases. On that same day, Cal Ripken played his 1,308th consecutive game to move past Everett Scott into second on the all-time list. 1990, Mariah Carey's debut album release. 91, Bulls dominate the Lakers 4-1. 2002, the Lakers sweep the Nets in 4. 2005, Annika Stormstand wins the LPGA championship by 3 ahead of 15-year-old amateur Michelle Wie. Man, I thought that career was going to be something.
I did too. I thought she was going to be the Tiger of women's golf.
I did. So did I. Pens get the Wings in 7 in Detroit in 2009 for their 3rd championship. 2016, they would beat the Sharks for their 4th. 2017, Golden State beats the Cavs in a 4-1 series victory. And in 2019, the Blues beat the Bruins for their first title in franchise history.
So today, 11 years ago today, when the Penguins went into Detroit and won Game 7, that was the first time in the 4 major sports
since the Pirates in 79, right?
Correct. It was 30 years. 30 years since a team in the Big 4 sports had gone on the road and won Game 7 for a championship.
Probably as much as I've ever shocked David doing a show, because I said it would be much better for hockey if the Penguins win that game, and his jaw hit the ground because I'm a diehard Wings fan. Probably should have never said it because, well, Detroit's not done much since. If you were born today, you share your birthday with George H.W. Bush, born today in 1924. As I mentioned, Anne Frank, born today, was in 1929. Jim Neighbors, back home again in Indiana. We would have heard that about a month ago. At the Indy 500, was born today in 1930. Mark Calcavecchia, celebrating his 60th birthday today. And that is, today was the day when, here on June the 12th.
So Calc turns 60, and Phil next week turns 50.
Right.
This is his last tournament before he is 50 years old. Now, I don't expect him to play on the Champions Tour in any way, shape, or form this year, but it will be interesting to me, at what point does he stop getting entries into the U.S. Open, and will he play the Senior Open to try to win it to then be able to play the U.S. Open the following year?
And I can't recall which guest we had. We do a lot of golf guests that just said, hey, these guys say they don't want to play the Senior Tour, but then they realize it's all their friends out there, and they want to win again. Winning matters. Pat Gerwin coming up in the 8 o'clock hour.
It's Fred Kobe with my Kobe Cooling tip of the day. Kobe Cooling is looking for experienced installers. We're hiring right now for experienced install crews, full-time work with top pay, top benefits, a 401k plan with matching monies, paid vacation, and plenty of work. As the oldest family in this business in the area, We're busy, and we need your help. So if you're an experienced air conditioning installer, please apply in person at 4697 Elevation Way in Fort Myers. We're social distancing, so when you get there, call the number on the door and someone will come out and help you. You can also email me at fredkobe@aol.com.
Jacob says, if you don't gamble when you golf, I don't trust you enough to hold my spot in line at Publix when I have to run and grab that last item my wife texts me as I'm about ready to check out.
Southwest Florida, Kobe Cooling. Kobe, the most trusted name in this business since 1949.
Now I got to log on as Frank to cancel out Moulton's vote.
University Medical Marijuana Education and Research Initiative, the Florida Association of Broadcasters, and this radio station.
Where I'm from, marijuana is legal. Can I use it in Florida?
Nah, it's illegal here. 20 grams or less is a misdemeanor, and more than 20 grams is a felony.
Well, I have epilepsy. Should I try to get a medical marijuana prescription?
Now that's legal, but talk to your doctor first to see if it's a qualifying condition and if medical marijuana is even right for you.
I will, thanks.
Driving means
freedom,
exploration,
fun,
pride,
flexibility,
protection,
friendship,
escape,
independence.
Distracted driving means
danger, recklessness,
irresponsible,
chaos, police, devastation,
injury,
tears, death.
Safe driving means staying alert and staying alive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
WFSX AM from Naples to Cape Coral and all of Southwest Florida. 94.1 Fox Sports Radio. We are Fox Sports. Here's what's trending now. Brought to you by the Center for Men's Health. C4MH.com. There's only one way to wake up in the morning. How the heck are you? Yep, that's it. Miller?
Really upset that my daughter will not read one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish on Twitch because I needed content. That's what we've come to.
And Moulton.
Well, we need to explain to her the pilot program, and we need 25 hours of programming a week. So you need to deliver your 12 minutes a day, 5 times a week, because that's an hour, honey.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
All guests appear on the Goldberg Noon Abraham hotline. Goldberg-law.com.
Yes! Oh, I like it. It's up to you now. It's up to you. I like it.
The Geelong Cats are just destroying Hawthorne. This was close going to the third quarter, and Geelong has just taken over this game.
You're live. May have to do this next segment by myself. Mark is all wrapped up in the Australian rules football that is going on live this morning, apparently. Unbelievable. Miller and Moulton, final hour of the show and of the week here on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Pat Kerwin to join us in roughly 25 minutes' time. 479-5551 is how you can call in or text into the show on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line 479-5551. If you miss any part of the show, that's where the podcasts come in. That's where we thank the good folks at Connecticut who have continued many of their May specials into June. 908-2300, 908-2300. Every hour of the show has its own podcast, or as we call it, Connecticut Cast. Feel free to download at your leisure. Thanks to the good folks at Connecticut.
I will definitely say for our Twitch chat room people who are my bourbon buddies, we have a lot of bourbon and whiskey discussions during the break. The Connecticut for the one ice cube, you know, if you've got that contraption that takes the big square into the large sphere ice cube, There's nothing cooler than a clear, big sphere of Connecticut ice cube. I mean, right up until the bourbon goes over it, and then that's cooler.
I was going to say, but right until then.
It just looks good. It just looks really good thrown in that glass.
Well, and appearances are important. It's all part of the ambiance of, just having that little glass of bourbon or whatever the case may be. 479-5551.
Appearances are important except for me because this thing's still on my lip that you've called
Unbelievable. Hideous. Yeah, I'm telling you, you're in need of an antibiotic. But besides that, you're doing okay. You're doing all right. A few things out there. Day 2, which is just underway of the Colonial in Fort Worth. Course played easy yesterday with virtually no wind, 7 under 63s. Justin Rose, Harold Varner III, your first-round leaders. Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, and 61-year-old Tom Lehman fired a 5 under 65. But a lot of good scores that were out there yesterday. We'll see if the wind picks up today. Otherwise, going to have to be under par to make the cut. That's for sure. If the wind is today is like it was yesterday. And Mark, I know you're already sizing up some bets as to golfers paired against one another.
Was just looking, Anita Marks, who's been on our show a lot, she does a lot of gambling talk. She put out a tweet this morning and had 6 matches that, one of the things if you don't gamble, or if you just gamble football and are looking to gamble on something else, one of the bets that any website that you use to gamble on has is head-to-head matchups in golf. So you're just picking Miller or Moulton. Doesn't matter who wins. Right. It just matters out of the two of us who scores better that day. And she had 6 matchups picked out that she liked. One of them, I think she had DJ losing to Rose. DJ didn't play very well yesterday. I imagine he's going to play a lot better, and I don't know if Rose can play anywhere close to as well as he played yesterday.
Did you hear DJ's answer before the tournament began? Everybody got asked essentially, what have you been doing? Over the last 3 months, what have you been doing? DJ's response was, quote, not a damn thing. Now, I don't know if he was kidding or not and just playing into the stereotype or what have you. But there's a part of me that thinks that was more truth than fiction.
Could be. And even DJ not doing a damn thing can still go shoot 65 any given day because he hits it 4 miles.
He does. We may look back at that time he fell down the steps at the house Masters Week when DJ was clearly the number 1 golfer in the world. He has not been the same guy. He had it going on. He had won the U.S. Open the year before. I think that was going to be the 2017 Masters. He had won a couple times leading up to it. I mean, that was going to be his time. Will DJ ever get it back to him being – I mean, it was clear he was the best golfer in the world.
No doubt. Not the best putter, but there wasn't anybody in his stratosphere tee to green at that time.
But he was starting to do what VJ did there for a while, where he was hitting the ball so well, and he had so many really good birdie opportunities that even being an average to above average putter, he was putting 67s and 68s on the board because he just gave himself so many opportunities. But he really hasn't been the same guy. He's had flashes, but, and goodness knows he wins every year. I mean, he's got that streak going where, he's got to win every year for over a decade. But you kind of wonder, it's tough for these guys outside of the legendary ones to have more than one moment when they've got it all going on, Mark, and they're the best golfer in the world. It's tough for them to have a second moment like that in their career.
Right. And we're not talking for 4 days. We're talking for 16 months.
Right.
18 months where you are just better than everyone. And then you throw into that right now, there's never been better golf played than what we're seeing right now. Hey, Tiger may have been better than all of these guys. Jack may have been better than all of these guys. But from top to bottom, when you got Harold Varner III that can go out and just fire 65 any given day, the guys that are between 60 and 100 in the world can win at any time. And in fact, this year on tour, David, only once, I believe, has the favorite won a tournament. Only twice has a second or third favorite won a tournament. Like, basically, when you're picking golf to pick a winner, you're picking the guys that are between the 30-1 and 50-1. That's kind of where the winners have been coming out of. And it just shows you that no matter how good we think so-and-so's playing or so-and-so's playing, there's 15, 18 guys that are good enough for 4 days to beat anybody if they play well. That's where you were with Webb Simpson this week. He'd been playing well before the tournament began, plays well on this course. Like, all right, I'll take a shot on him.
Right. And he didn't have a good day yesterday. He needs to go low today. And he needs to go somewhat low just to be around for the weekend with the way things are going. Speaking of golf, it's our poll question. When you play, do you prefer to gamble? Yes or no? Very simple question. Mark distraught that right now the non-gamblers are winning out. Mark can't fathom it, actually.
No, it's so bad that I'm going to be retweeting this at Golf People later in the day.
Come on!
I'm probably going to send this to Club Pro Guy to get a little help.
Unreal. You're losing 60-40, and now you're going to rig the vote.
Not rigging the vote. I'm just trying to get a broader answer to the vote, as many voters as possible.
Right. I'm targeting everybody that's at the casino in Immokalee, okay? Hey.
Or at the golf course anywhere around the country, David.
479-5551, 479-5551 is how you can chime in via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. We talked about this earlier. Alex Cora, former Red Sox manager, former Astros bench coach, suspended for this season for his part in the Astros sign-sealing scandal. He gave his first interview yesterday, gave it with ESPN, in which he said, and I quote, "This was not a two-man show. We all did it." How high up the food chain do you think he's talking there?
All the way.
Owner?
Yes. I've always thought that. I have always thought that. Certainly GM and president. If the owner was a non-hands-on owner that never paid attention to anything, it's plausible that he didn't know. Unlikely, but plausible. But I think Cora was throwing Hinch under the bus. I do not think he was defending. I mean, he was, because it's been Beltran and Cora have been the two that have been singled out. The two of them are the two masterminds of this whole thing. And it was all them. It was nobody else. And I think what Cora's saying is that's a bunch of crap.
Well, Jeff Lunau, the former GM, I mean, he has come out and basically he named I had nothing to do with nothing, and he ratted out everybody. I mean, he couldn't throw enough people under the bus. And that's who I thought Alex Cora was really talking about here. Cora's like, really? You didn't know what was going on?
Well, I thought it was Hinch because Hinch made all the claims of, I tried to stop it. I did everything I could. But I'm in charge of this team, and the players run it, and I have nothing to do with it. Apparently, all I do is hand a lined-up card in. And I have no say-so over any of the members on this team and what they do.
Now, Hinch did say that, hey, it's my responsibility, and I didn't go far enough. I knew about it, tried to stop it. I didn't go far enough. You're not buying it.
Not one bit. The manager wants to stop it, he can stop it, David. After all, and if he can't, then that means the GM knew everything that was going on, and it means the owner knew everything that was going on.
Well, I have no doubt the GM knew everything that was going on. Everything that was going on. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. Now, did the owner? Probably knew. Probably knew something. Maybe didn't know to the extent. Maybe didn't know the details as to how they're doing it. But, I mean, come on, Mark. We were all wondering what the hell was the whistles and the banging of the trash can. I mean, honestly, We were all, and then they were going out of their way to, I mean, the changing of the signs and the length of the games that it was taking when you played the Astros, because literally teams were flashing 4 sets of signs. They were changing their signs between every inning. I mean, clearly the opponents thought something was going on. How ironic that last year's World Series, in which, this investigation didn't touch, but we all thought it was still going on during last year's playoffs and World Series, that the Astros went 0 for 4 at home. Credit the Nationals. Credit the Nats for, basically overcoming the Astros trying to cheat by them changing their signs to such a degree that the Astros had no idea.
Here, David, let me ask you this question. How much more credit do you give the Nats now for their World Series championship than you did as it was going on?
Well, especially since I thought Houston was the better team, period. So they outplayed the better team without having home field advantage and won games 6 and 7 on the road to win it. But yes, if you are convinced that the Astros were still trying to cheat and or cheating, that they were able to overcome that. I mean, hey, talk to a Yankees fan. I mean, the Yankees are hot about the Astros. They feel that Houston potentially took 2 World Series away from them. Never mind the Dodgers. I mean, I'll say it again. That game, the series tied at 2 with the Dodgers, Kershaw on the mound, and the Dodgers score a bunch of runs early. Kershaw threw a 4-hitter against the Astros previous time he faced them, and he couldn't get a single swing and a miss. Arguably the best stuff of his generation. And they lit him up.
And now we believe that Kershaw is now on the downside of his career. Doesn't mean he still can't pitch great games here and there, but that his best stuff has left him. And in the midst of his best stuff, we have a image of Kershaw not being a playoff guy, but one of the biggest games that he pitched in the playoffs is completely jaded. Completely.
Meanwhile, the 2 times he pitched at home in that series, he completely shut the Astros down. He threw the 4-hitter in game 1, I think it was, or game 2. And then remember, he comes out of the bullpen in game 7 after they're already losing, and he throws a bunch of shutout innings. So when he was at home and they didn't have their, cheating system set up, the Astros literally couldn't put the bat on the ball against him. Meanwhile, the one time he pitches in Houston, he literally can't get a swing and a miss.
Well, David, just quickly, from Geelong in Australia, it is now a final. 108-47 over Hawthorn. Geelong just dismantled Hawthorn in the second. I don't think they scored in the second half. It was as dominant of a performance as I've seen in the AFL since the early 80s when Melbourne had that great run on early ESPN days, David.
Wait, the AFL? Arena
Australian
football's back?
Yeah. Australian Football League.
Oh, gotcha. The AFL. Oh, boy. Miller and Moulton. Be interesting to see what comes out of Iowa City today, early in the afternoon. Kirk Ferentz and 3 players are supposed to hold a press conference. Be interesting to see what he has to say. And
I'm more interested in how the players, if they're allowed, if questions are allowed to be asked, I would love to see what they're going to ask the players, whether it's about Doyle, whether it's about Brian Ferentz. Most everybody's, in fact, they've all come to Kirk Ferentz's defense by and large. No one's saying bad things about Kirk other than that he runs an old school program and maybe a little blind to some things. But they're not, I've not heard anybody coming out and saying Kirk Ferentz is a racist or has done racial things through this.
No, I think people are trying to separate Doyle from Ferentz. Now, Doyle, as our guest earlier this week said, he's Ferentz's best friend. He's been with him literally. He was his first hire. All right. The two are arm in arm in terms of this is Iowa football. Kirk Ferentz's coaching, and Doyle's strength and conditioning. I mean, that is the centerpiece of who they are and what they are.
And look at college football. You could argue the two most important assistants in college football are whoever the recruiting director is, or your lead recruiter, and your strength and conditioning coach. The strength and conditioning coach sees the players far more than any other coach on staff. So to David's point, the strength and conditioning coach largely sets the precedent for how the program is run from the direction of the head coach.
Remember, this past offseason, what did Kirby Smart do? He hired away from Alabama their strength and conditioning coach. I think is Scott Foster, his name.
And that was considered a big coup in Athens.
Right. And Scott wanted to be more than just strength and conditioning. He also wanted to be a position coach, and Kirby was willing to give him that. And he claimed, supposedly, Nick said, hey, I don't have a spot for you. So, but the Iowa strength and conditioning coach makes $800,000 a year, and I believe the guy in Bama was making between $6 and $7.
Think about that. They were outspending Bama on a strength and conditioning coach. It's tough to do.
It's tough to outspend Bama on anything.
Correct.
Miller and Moulton. Our poll question: when you golf, do you prefer to gamble when you golf? Yay or nay? That Mark Miller, the David Moulton on Twitter, millerandmoulton.com to vote. Pat Kerwin, talk a little NFL. This might be the final time we have Pat on twice during the week until training camps get underway. We'll see. Pat will join us coming up in a few minutes here on Miller and Moulton. Thanks for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
A date which will live in infamy. People who knock these buildings down will hear all of it.
Amazing comebacks.
Yes, Johnny Mack, a talking bush. I'm not going to lie. An entire bush with heads popping out and talking to me. It was at Central Michigan University on 911 Main Street. That's where the house was I was at.
And return to our lives, great lives, on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Oh, that was great. I got to get this. I need more Australian rules football. Whew.
Dan Martineau here, owner of DR Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. We're still finding a lot of roofs with hurricane and windstorm damage. Call us today for a free inspection. Google DRM Roofing or call 239-332-1441.
License number CCC 1326954.
For professional roofing, the name you need to know is DR Martineau.
At Wink News, we've invested millions in the technology that shows you approaching storms. First, fast, and local.
And during hurricane season, we know the weather is what you're watching for.
We've got tools no other station has to show you what you need to know to keep your family safe.
At Wink Weather, our mission comes down to one thing.
Your peace of mind.
The best equipped, most experienced weather team. Trust Wink News, the weather authority.
Attention, Southwest Florida. Are you ready for this? Only Naples Nissan will give you $8,000 over Kelley Blue Book value for your trade-in. Hundreds of new SUV models to choose from, all backed by our exclusive unlimited mile lifetime warranty. Pick out your favorite at NaplesNissan.com. Then come see us on Pine Ridge Road to find out the KBB.com current market value for your trade-in. We'll give you $8,000 more so you can drive that brand new Nissan home today. If KBB says it's worth $5,000, Naples Nissan will give you $13,000. If KBB says $10,000, we'll give you $18,000. You must act fast, though. Visit NaplesNissan.com for full details. Offer on select models with approved credit and cannot be combined.
Dial star 2020. Friends, I care.
Well, we're all trying to wash our hands 10, maybe 50, 100 times a day now. So when you touch your contact lenses in the morning, are you also thinking about, well, all the germs you could potentially be placing in your eyes? No one wants to think about that, so it might be a great time to consider LASIK. Friends Eye Care offering $1,000 off bilateral LASIK, a savings that makes the procedure much more affordable. Dr. Jonathan France and his expert team of surgeons want to help you see your future in 2020 by providing you with better vision and a better quality of life. But what if you've been told you're not a candidate for LASIK? Call Friends Eye Care anyway, because there are other procedures available that will help you see clearly without the use of glasses or contact lenses. Call now, schedule your free consultation, take advantage of $1,000 off bilateral LASIK special. Financing available.
Friends Eye Care.
People often ask me, how did you grow my shower door so big and so fast? But the answer is, we didn't. What we did is we took our family business, we hired great talent, trained our staff, and developed our product. Now, after 17 years, my shower door has 8 frameless shower door showrooms, with our newest in Cape Coral. If you're looking for a frameless shower door company that you can trust and research, and you want to see more, go to myshowerdor.com.
This message is sponsored by the Florida A&M University Medical Marijuana Education and Research Initiative, the Florida Association of Broadcasters, and this radio station.
Where I'm from, marijuana is legal. Can I use it in Florida?
Nah, it's illegal here, man.
But I have PTSD. Should I at least try to get medical marijuana?
That's legal. But if I were you, I'd talk to my doctor about qualifying conditions and
Your call,
find out
Pat.
if medical marijuana is
Nope,
even right
doing it
for
right
you.
now.
Thanks. I'll talk to my doctor.
94.1
Crap.
Lehigh. Now back to Miller and Moulton.
All right, now we're getting somewhere.
No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live. Approaching 25 minutes past the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. The home stretch of Miller and Moulton on this Friday. Hope your week's gone okay. And, well, hopefully you got something lined up fun for the weekend. That would be good. 479-5551. 479-5551 is how you can chime in to the Williams & Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. 479-5551. Hoping to catch up with Pat Kerwin here coming up in just a little bit. If you haven't already, make sure you do download the Miller and Moulton Show on our YouTube and Twitch TV channels. It is free and it is interactive.
Well, maybe this week that we're only going to have Pat once a week because, well, he didn't answer.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll call back.
Never know.
Text me yesterday, said he'd be available. So we'll see. Pay attention to your phone. He may call back.
We'll see.
Who knows? 479-5551. I will say, they extended the whole virtual thing in the NFL pretty much through the end of the month. I mean, there's not going to be any sort of camps of any kind before training camps. Not going to be any mini camps, anything like that. Mark, to me, the first tell will be if the Pro Football Hall of Fame makes an announcement. They've got a big weekend planned. They've got a big celebration. They got 20 people going into the hall. And right now, everything is on schedule. The Hall of Fame opened up the middle of this past week after it had been closed for 3 months. And right now, that weekend's on schedule because that's also the Hall of Fame game. Cowboys, Steelers.
Right. The original date was what? August,
I thought it was the first. Well, it's not the first weekend in August because August 1st and 2nd, I believe.
So it was August 9th or that week, basically, was Hall of Fame games. They played on a Thursday, so probably August 6th, something like that.
I think the game was on the 6th, and the weekend was going to go through the 8th and or 9th. But that was going to be the 3-4 day celebration, first full week of August.
Okay. Now, it certainly seems as if we are only playing 2 preseason games. I mean, that balloon's been out there for a while. No one's going to be opposed to that, by the way. Except for maybe, actually, there's one small group that would be opposed. Local TV. I think local TV makes pretty good money. You would know better than I, David, but I think that local TV does okay by preseason games typically.
Yeah, and they have absolutely no vote in this.
No. But I'm saying that's the only group that I would think that could be negatively affected by no preseason games. I don't think the fans are that affected. I certainly know the players would prefer. I guess there's two groups. Guys that are trying desperately to make a team that need as many reps in games as possible, and the local television network that makes some money. But that is a minuscule a part of the population that would be negatively affected when I think most of us only want 2 preseason games. Anybody who buys season tickets would be ecstatic about getting some money back for a game that they're not going to go to. So I say that in that, how the hell are we going to play a football game on August 6th in Canton? Or are we just going to have a ceremony without a football game?
Well, that's why I threw that out there. That, to me, is going to be our first clue. Because if that's, and David Baker, the president of the Hall of Fame, gave an interview earlier this week in which he said, hey, right now, it's full systems go for the dates that, we have it scheduled. And he did mention in part because the game sold out in 22 minutes. I mean, it's Cowboys Steelers. I mean, the game sold out like that.
I mean, think of all of the Hall of Fame games you can remember in your head. We don't ever get this.
No.
I mean, these are the 2 biggest fan bases in the country.
Could certainly argue it. Dallas is clearly number 1 in terms of ratings. All right. And then it's just a matter of, would you go Packers? Would you go Steelers? But it's right there.
And it's not because of my wife. I just think Green Bay has it. Pittsburgh has home games nearly in every stadium they play. Green Bay's close. But you're right. I mean, New England now in the second coming. But these are, 1A franchises. So you don't even need the game to have a huge crowd in Canton with Dallas and Pittsburgh supporters there to welcome Hall of Famers.
Right, but it is a big moneymaker. I mean, the Hall of Fame's made no bones about it. The game's a big moneymaker. So that's something to pay attention to. Does that remain when it is scheduled? Because if so, then it would be odd to then not have any preseason games for 3 weeks thereafter. I mean, because the talk is that they're going to reduce the preseason from 4 until 2. And remember, the only reason to have the preseason games is for the owners to make money because they include it in their season ticket package. Well, if they're not going to have any fans for the preseason games, which is interesting in and of itself, David Baker talking about right now, we're operating plan A is to treat it as normal. He did say they have 5 contingency plans, though. And number 5 is pushing it all the way back to 2021.
My first question is this. If we're going to play 2 preseason games, and the season begins on September the 10th.
Right.
The final preseason games would be September 3rd. They pretty much all play them on Thursday, right?
Yes.
For the last game.
At least a week.
For everyone.
Right. So, yes, it would be September 3rd and then go the week previous to that. So it'd be the very end of August.
It would be the 27th through the 30th because they do play the games, it seems like, on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for preseason throughout the normal weeks. Would you give, I'm guessing one of the contingencies is to play that game on August 20th.
Right. Just push Hall of Fame weekend back 2 weeks. I mean, that's why I said pay attention to what the Hall of Fame does. That should be a big tell.
So pushing it back 2 weeks, they would get 3 preseason games. Everybody else would get 2. They were going to get 5. Everybody else was going to get 4. We all know no one plays. Now, the difference is by the time, if you were to do that, how much of a competitive advantage, if any, would it be? Because typically when you have this game 3 weeks prior to August 20th, or 2 weeks prior, August 6th, you're not playing Ben. You're not playing Dak. You know what I'm getting at here. Would they treat this a little differently? Would it give them any sort of competitive advantage? I doubt a whole hell of a lot.
And remember, though, what does Dallas have? They have a new coach. Now, they're trying to keep as much of the system as possible for Dak, but they do have a new coach. And this is something that we've also talked about. We've got, 6 of them? This year we have new coaching staffs, and we're not even talking about the new coordinators. And so if you're having a virtual offseason with no mini camps, none of that, and then you're cutting training camp and you're cutting preseason in half, does this really begin to stack up against the teams with new coaches, the teams with new coordinators and new systems? I mean, is this going to be, in theory, the biggest disadvantage off season that new coaches will ever have?
I think it's undeniable that it's going to be. Like, everybody's expecting Cleveland to make strides this year. Do you know how hard I think that's going to be with all brand new personnel in the front office? That seems like a hell of a thing to take on right now. It's one of the two best teams in the league in Baltimore and get past them. That seems like a hell of an assignment for the Cleveland Browns.
Now, remember, though, 7 playoff teams in each conference. All right. And just do some simple math here. Like, I believe only one team's going to come out of the AFC East for a variety of reasons. Don't think the division's any good. Also, the AFC East teams' crossover schedules this year are far tougher than they were last year. And so I just don't think that there's going to be a wild card that comes out of the East. Okay, there's one. Well, how many do you think are coming out of the West? Besides Kansas City, who are you willing to hang your hat on is going to at least be able to get to 9 to challenge for a playoff spot?
David, I could throw 3 papers in the air and pick a different team every time. I think the Raiders could get to 9.
But how many are you going to throw, your shekels on?
No, I mean, but I think that division outside of San Diego, there it is. Son of a.
Well, it's the off season. Yes.
And it's a pandemic, so I'm going to take a freebie there. But outside of the Chargers, who I give no shot.
Okay.
I think the Raiders in Denver are viable.
All right. The South is in transition this year. Does it finally blow up in Houston? Jacksonville seems to be a mess. And then you've got Tennessee and Indianapolis. Let's just say 2 playoff teams come out of the South.
Look, I could see 3. Everybody not named Jacksonville.
See, and I'm making the case that maybe, just maybe, the division in the AFC in which that I would bet right now, Mark, believe it or not, if there's a division in the AFC that I think is going to have 3 playoff teams, I would bet the North.
Okay, let's do a little head-to-head. We think Baltimore is obviously the best team in the division, and we'll take Houston on the other side.
I wouldn't. I actually think Houston's fallen off.
Okay, so Tennessee or Indy?
Yeah, I'm probably going to go Tennessee with Indy being a wild card.
Okay, and even though we know who won in the playoffs, I think Baltimore, we would say, is the better team going into the season. I mean, right? I mean, if you were to do a ranking, I think we'd all rank Baltimore ahead of Tennessee.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
Who's your second best team in the North?
I would say Pittsburgh.
Are they better than Indy right now? Because I don't know if they are. I don't think they are, as a matter of fact.
I think the Steelers at the line of scrimmage are one of the 3 best teams in the league.
So's Indianapolis, particularly on the offensive side of the line of scrimmage.
Well, I'll take a healthy Ben over a 38-year-old Rivers. Now, it's a big if. Is Ben going to be healthy? But to me, the fact that they won 8 games last year with Mason Rudolph and Duck Dynasty as their quarterbacks, I mean, that's how good that defense is. That's how good they are at the line of scrimmage. And they had a whole bunch of guys last year that got to play who normally would not have played because they had a bunch of injuries. And I think Pittsburgh's really going to benefit from last season this year. If Ben is healthy, I think the Steelers are a double-digit win team. And so to me, it comes down to, can Cleveland live up to their roster? Because their roster is a playoff roster. It is. It is. If you put different helmets and shoulder pads on that roster, we would all pick that roster to go to the playoffs.
Their offensive line's a mess.
Not a mess. Not a mess. Maybe they have one weakness.
Can they get, I mean, they've got Garrett, and where else can they get back the quarterback? I'm just saying, as compared to Houston, I don't think it's that easy. Like, I think Houston's better than Cleveland right now. I think it's close. That's all I'm saying. And then Jacksonville and Cincinnati's a wash. So I think it's a great argument. I think these divisions are very similar. I would give the edge to Baltimore at the top out of the 2, but after that, it's a toss-up. But I think you're on to something that I think these are the two divisions that would fight for the possibility of putting 3 teams in the postseason.
Now, what is interesting to me is crossover divisions. You know, the AFC South plays the AFC North. So here I am thinking that maybe this is the year that the North has 3 playoff teams. Well, those 2 divisions are going to go head to head. The South and the North are going after each other. The South also plays the NFC North, for what it's worth. Meanwhile, the AFC North, do you know who they play? They play the NFC East.
Yeah, that's an advantage.
Yes, it is.
Because we all believe going into the season
there
that the Giants and the Redskins are 2 of the teams that are going to fight to be on the clock.
So just looking ahead, remember, it doesn't seem like much, but the extra playoff spot in each conference, and then because of it, only 1 bye. You know, does Kansas City win the Super Bowl last year if they didn't have the bye? I mean, it's the great unknown. We'll never know it. But what role did the Miami Dolphins play in the Kansas City Chiefs winning the Super Bowl last year? Them going into New England and beating the Patriots and moving the Patriots down from the 2 to the 3. But more importantly, giving Kansas City the week off.
And bringing Tom Brady to Tampa with that win all by itself. I mean, the Miami Dolphins did a lot for the National Football League with that victory.
They certainly did a lot for the AFC last year. They really did. I mean, we'll never know. You know, Baltimore at home field advantage, and, you know, they've heck, Baltimore the last 3 years has lost big games all at home. They've now lost 2 home playoff games under Lamar Jackson. And remember, in 2017, all they had to do was beat the Bengals final week of the season to make the playoffs, and Andy Dalton went in there and completed that 4th and long and put Buffalo in the playoffs at their expense. But, you know, the great unknown what role did the Miami Dolphins play in the Kansas City Chiefs winning the Super Bowl? And the Chiefs could be the last 2 seed, you know, to ever have a bye, and then obviously turn it into what they turned it into.
And, David, you pointed out that the AFC North is playing the NFC East. The AFC South is playing the NFC North.
Right.
And just for the record, I just had Pittsburgh's schedule up in front of me, and they play Houston, so I clicked on Houston's schedule. David, if you're right about the Texans, let me just give you their first 4 games. At Kansas City.
Right.
Home for Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
At Pittsburgh.
Right.
Home for the Vikings.
Well, and you can go a little further. You can go 3 more. Now, week 5's easy. It's a home game against Jacksonville in theory. But then isn't it at Tennessee and at Green Bay?
Home for Green Bay. But, yes, I mean, they have 6 teams on their schedule that we all think are playoff contenders in the first 7 weeks.
6 of their first 7 opponents this year were 500 or better last year. 5 of the 7 were playoff teams. Right.
That is fascinating just to see, you know, tell me right now, if the Texans are 3-4 at their bye, would you go over, under, or right on?
If the Texans are 3-4, they're going to make the playoffs, because the scheduling note that I wrote down here is of their final 9 opponents, Mark, only 2 of them were above 500.
One of those teams was the New England Patriots.
And they get both of those 2 teams at home. So, yeah, the Texans have to survive. Bill O'Brien has got to survive, because if they're 2-5 or worse, you know what the big story in the league is going to be. You know, he made too many trades. He screwed up this roster. Look at what he's done to the Texans. He's running them into the ground, blah, 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 blah.
So fascinating team to look at are the Texans heading in to the 2020 season.
Steelers start with 4 out of 6 at home, for what that's worth. But they won 8 games last year without Ben Roethlisberger. All right. Tough for me not to look at them and think they're still a playoff team. Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. They're well coached. They have an elite quarterback until proven otherwise. Now, I have to admit, I'd feel a little better if he was in, a little better shape. I mean, hopefully he is, and that was just, a couple of pictures in which, I don't know, he looked worse than he really is. But, I mean, he looked to me as if he was about to come in situational pass rush opportunities.
He looked to me like he was settling in as a father very well.
I was going to say, come on now. I thought you were putting retirement off for another couple of years.
He looked to me like he wanted a bucket of wings next to him and a remote control, David.
Yep. It looked like he had already hit it a couple times. Miller and Moulton. The good, the bad, and the ugly, as we call it a day and call it a week. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program.
This is the Dan Patrick Show.
The anthem wasn't a big deal. And then all of a sudden it was a showcase because somebody was going to sing it. Or you'd have the flyover. We'd be able to show off the military. I don't remember when I was growing up that the anthem was a big deal, where I'd go, this is a big ceremony here. But that was when I was younger. But now it is a big deal.
Dan Patrick. The Dan Patrick Show. Weekdays at 9 a.m. on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
We know Southwest Florida is Gulf Shore strong, and as businesses continue to reopen.
You want a hockey guest on Monday?
Normalcy, we want to hear from you. Call us
Sure.
at 479.
A friend of mine reached out to me that played in Atlanta when I was working there. He's expanding his business to Tampa, and they're sending out the release Monday. His brother hosts the show in St. Louis on 101 ESPN.
Okay.
And he played in the league, too. I mean, Jamie played in the NHL. On his Facebook, or on his Twitter page, I'm good in the locker room, and that's where they left me most of the time.
Nice. Owner of DR Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. We're still finding a lot of roofs with hurricane and windstorm damage. Nice. Call us today for a free inspection. Google.
But I didn't realize until Sean and I were going back and forth yesterday that Jamie was doing radio, and I'm like, boom, there we go. We got a connection.
Tonight on Wink News at 6, if you have 1, 2, or even more prescriptions, you know the costs are climbing. What you probably don't know about many new ways to save on prescriptions. Patients all over Southwest Florida are discovering how to save big on prescriptions.
I can get pretty much any generic medication for my patients at just a fraction of the cost that they would spend at a pharmacy.
And even get many for free. A Wink cost of care investigation. Cut your prescription bills. Tonight on Wink News at 6.
It's Fred Kobe with your Kobe Cooling Tip of the Day. I'd like to tell you that I'm the best AC mechanic in my company, but I'd be lying to you. I think my NATE certified mechanic team hides my tools from me so I don't hurt myself. You see, I'm the old guy, and I've been doing this work since I was a kid with my dad. Our younger staff are really the best mechanics in this business, and they've been through years of training and years of testing, with continuing education to keep up to date on the latest and greatest things in the air conditioning world. All companies brag about their experience, and we certainly have that, but we're most proud of our team being on the cutting edge and the leaders in technology and application of the modern air conditioning equipment. That's why we've been voted best air conditioning company in Southwest Florida year after year in the news press polls. It's not me, it's the best team of NATE certified mechanics ever assembled. Call 239-482-1542 and experience the best. License CACO 57313.
Dial star 2020. Friends, I care.
Well, we're all trying to wash our hands 10, maybe 50, 100 times a day now. So when you touch your contact lenses in the morning, are you also thinking about, all the germs you could potentially be placing in your eyes? No one wants to think about that, so it might be a great time to consider LASIK. France Eye Care offering $1,000 off bilateral LASIK, a savings that makes the procedure much more affordable. Dr. Jonathan France and his expert team of surgeons want to help you see your future in 2020 by providing you with better vision and a better quality of life. But what if you've been told you're not a candidate for LASIK? Call Friends Eye Care anyway, because there are other procedures available that will help you see clearly without the use of glasses or contact lenses. Call now, schedule your free consultation, take advantage of $1,000 off bilateral LASIK special. Financing available.
Friends Eye Care.
This message is sponsored by the Florida A&M University Medical Marijuana Education and Research Initiative, the Florida Association of Broadcasters, and this radio station.
Where I'm from, marijuana is legal. Can I use it in Florida?
Nah, it's illegal here. 20 grams or less is a
Nah.
misdemeanor, and more than 20 grams is a felony.
No way, man.
Nah.
Should I try to get a medical marijuana prescription?
Nah, bro.
Nah.
Legal, but talk to your doctor first.
Come
to see
on.
if it's a qualifying condition.
What a game by Geelong today. I mean, they were tremendous.
I will, thanks.
From the best headlines
The best.
to the worst,
It's the worst thing that ever happened to anybody ever.
prepare yourself and hide the women and children. This is Mark Miller's Good, Bad, and Ugly on Fox Sports Radio.
Your life.
For the good today, we go to the U.S. Olympic team. Virginia, I believe it's, ooh, boy, that's a tough one. F-U-C-H-S. How would you pronounce that, David? We're just going to go with Virginia.
Fuchs.
Virginia Fuchs will face no punishment after failing a doping test, after the Anti-Doping Association determined the violation had been caused by two substances transmitted by her boyfriend through hanky-panky. She tested positive, but her partner had been taking the products that included two banned substances, and the levels of her violations were consistent with the exposure through hanky-panky. So good for Virginia, who was the recent captain of the U.S. Olympic team. Nothing over there. Not a damn thing out of them.
Well, I love the fact you went hanky-panky.
Well, there could be kids in the car, and I'm trying to be more conscious of saying things that get you nervous.
I love the fact that you went hanky-panky.
For the bad, we go to Portsmouth, Virginia, where protesters have been taking down monuments, and I think a lot of them should be taken down. That's my personal opinion. You may have a different one. But the problem with this one is that as Chris Green was at a protest where a Confederate monument was being pulled down, he was standing in the wrong spot when the statue came down because it landed on him.
Damn.
And he is in serious shape. That the wife has issued a statement, and hopefully all will go well. But right now, Mr. Green's still not doing very well after the statue fell on him. Finally, the ugly, we go to Twitter, where an 11-second clip that has received 400,000 views since Monday has the owner of a cat in big trouble. In fact, he's being accused of animal cruelty. Apparently, when it was posted, he said, "I think we should all watch this cat try to eat ice cream for the first time." The cat takes a lick and immediately falls back, seemingly wanting to get the ice cream out of its mouth or off its fur where some of it had landed. People on Twitter said it was animal cruelty. Many of the Twitter users accused the owner of intentionally giving the cat a brain freeze. To all of them, I say, get a life.
I was going to say, is that where
It's
we're
a
at
cat.
now?
It's a cat. I mean,
Come on.
It's a cat.
It's ice cream. I mean, do you know what that cat puts in its mouth throughout the course of the day?
Not ice cream.
Come on now.
That is the good, the bad, and the ugly on today, June the 12th, in the longest year of history, 2020.
Yep, it's been 3 months. All right, it was 3 months ago today that everything shut down. It was March 12th that it all came a shutting down.
Well, David, there has been panic. There has been unrest. There's nervousness throughout society today, David. But I didn't want to put this in. But there is one other news of note that Giro did give to me. Apparently, I don't know if you recall, that the Mayans said the world would end December 21st of 2012. There's been some confusion because the Gregorian calendar that was introduced in 1582 by Pope Gregory XIII made important changes that were used by the Julian calendar. The biggest thing is that it removed 11 days from our year to better reflect the time it takes the Earth to orbit around the sun. But those 11 days over 286 years add up so much now that the Twitter folks are saying that the real Mayan end of the world is just 9 days away, June 21st, 2020. So let's hope that we survive these final days.
Mark, I hope nobody takes this the wrong way, but this has been such a rough year for many of us, all right, that if given the choice between the world coming to an end in 9 days or our current state of affairs continuing for another couple months, I really think that people are ready to walk outside, look up into the sky and say, bring it on, big fella. Bring it on.
Got your ending right here. It's called the coronavirus.
Right. All right. I'm Tony Soprano. You want to whack me at the end, whack me at the end.
But I'm playing Journey, and I'm playing it loud.
Right. I've had enough.
I have not had to dig into the golf world yet, David. But our poll question today, when you play golf, do you prefer to gamble? The gambling folk, the degenerate, is coming out in droves as the now poll question is tightened to 53-47.
Okay. Listen, I think gambling's going to win. All right. This is one of the few things that I actually prefer not to gamble on. All right. When I play golf, and I don't play it much anymore, but when I play golf, I actually prefer not to gamble.
I will say this. I've told you, you're on the clock for the member guest. You're going to have to change your attitude.
Oh, no. First off, I'll gladly partake. I just said if given a preference, I would just, prefer to have a couple cocktails and just play and enjoy the conversation. And, there's no need to put money on this because at some point I'm going to screw up and I don't need to have the tantrum be any worse than it's already going to be. That's all.
Fair enough. That is the poll question. That Mark Miller, the David Moulton. It will stay up all weekend long as we watch golf. And I have got to tell you, check the deuce tomorrow morning when you wake up because nothing made me happier than watching a little Australian rules football during our commercial breaks today. I think I did pretty well of not leaving you on an island for the show. I only looked occasionally. Tried to keep it limited to commercials. But man, oh man, that 7 o'clock hour started and there was Aussie football on. I was giddy.
Now, were you as excited today as you were because you haven't seen it in a while, or is this your general reaction to Australian rules football, period?
Both. I'm rugby, I understand a little bit. This is kind of this rugby meets soccer game. I like the kicking aspect of the Australian rules football from a watchability standpoint over that of rugby because I know the sports are eerily similar. I thought it was, once I figured it out as a kid, David, on the, watching ESPN when we were young, once I figured out the rules, I really enjoyed the game.
I had a girlfriend in high school. She was over the house, and I had it on the TV, and she goes, "What is that?" And I said, "This is Kill the Man with the Ball meets soccer."
Yes.
That's what this is. I go, and a little guy, I said, a bunch of people running around in tight white shorts, and then some guy comes out in a white overcoat, all right, and he gives signals as to whether or not, they've scored a touchdown or just an extra point.
1 minute.
Yes. And I love that guy. He makes the red hat guy of college football look like he doesn't even have a real job.
See, that's where I think your love for Australian rules football comes from. I think in your next life, you want to be that guy.
Yes, I do. I'm going to have to set up the DVR so I can tape this every day. I love this sport. I have a new team now.
Miller and Moulton. Round 2 of the Colonial is already underway. NASCAR's at Homestead this weekend. There'll be 1,000 invited military guests in the stands. I wonder if we'll even be able to see or hear any of them. Quite frankly, there'll be so few of them.
Dan Patrick Show is next. Have a terrific weekend. Thanks so much for listening to Miller and Moulton right here on Fox Sports Radio.
All right, you guys have a good weekend. I'll see you Monday.
Giro, great job. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Giro.
Thanks, everybody. We'll talk.